Welcome back live to Daytona here on Speed. Oh, we were talking about the fluids coming out the back of the 58. There's an example of what we're talking about. And David Hobbs, that looks really serious.
That is not water, that is oil. And look at that oil on the floor.
Chris Neville is down there.
Guys, now this came out when they added water to the car, so that was what Mike Colucci was saying, is sometimes when we add water, you're going to get a lot of fluid coming out the back end. I made sure that they were adding water to the car, they weren't adding anything else, and as they added that water, as soon as they got to the point where it got full, that's what came out the back end. So we're going to pay attention to this, but I don't think it's as desperate as we all thought. Now, great pit stops. We're now in that time where these guys are pulling the sprint stops. It's no more checking for parts that might be loose or broken. These guys are just trying to get them back out in pit lane, and the Ganassi boys won.
That's right. We had a position change. Scott Pruitt got in and out ahead of the Brumos boys. Here's one final look at that fluid being sprayed out the back of the car into our camera lens. Well, that's a story that has yet to play out. While the Brumos boys go about cleaning up their pits, we welcome a special visitor to the booth, Robin Bragg, who's the president of Daytona International Speedway. Robin, thanks for your hospitality. What are your thoughts on your Rolex 24 here?
Boy, I tell you, if you're a promoter like the France family is, and to kick off our Speed Weeks, we're having one of the best races of our wonderful history, the 47th running of the Rolex 24, and the great weather we're having, and the great field. I mean, we as promoters, we can have the chili cook-offs, and we can have the jet ski guy going around in circles, but truly what Jim France and Roger Edmondson has put together on the track is what's making ticket sales a lot easier, and we're really pleased. The great weather, better attendance than we had in the past. So these sports car guys, the economy is not affecting them as much.
Doesn't seem to be, does it? No. Well, as you just mentioned, it kicks off Speed Weeks here at Daytona. This is your busiest time of year. How are things looking for the stock car boys when they roll in?
Well, we're really excited. We are getting some effects of the economy, and we've been working really hard with our local hotels. We've dropped some pricing. We have a $55 ticket this year on the Super Stretch, and we hope fans will call 1-800-PIT-SHOP or Daytona500.com, and we'll walk them through a $55 package. We've dropped our food and beverage pricing. We have free parking. You've always been able to bring your food into our facilities. So this is all very important. I mean, we realize that the economy is hurting. I mean, Disney's dropped their pricing, NFL's dropped their pricing, and we had to adjust as well. So we're really excited. But we got one ticket promotion that we're especially excited about.
Yeah, I was afraid you were going to bring this up.
Sit with Jimmy or sit with Kenny. Now, I promise you, if you guys have a ticket promotion for us next year, you want to bring it.
Oh, I got to keep this, huh?
That's a great promotion. Again, log on to Daytona500.com for $100. You get to hang out with Jimmy and Kenny and get you a bobblehead doll. And I don't know if you have one already, but next year we'll set you up.
I don't have a Jimmy, but Robin, it raises the question: where are the Bob and David bobbleheads?
That's it.
Oh yeah,
we're looking forward to it. So.
Well, maybe that's a question better left unanswered. Robin, thank you very much. And there is the guy on the jet ski that Robin was talking about. Roy Ogletree is out there trying to set a world record for the longest distance covered in a 24-hour period by a rider on a jet ski. I cannot imagine what it's been like through the depths of the night here in Daytona as Roy goes up and down Lake Lloyd at high speed on that jet ski. There's a wave from Roy. Now let's get down to Chris Neville with more on pit stops.
Okay, Bob, so you hang out with these guys for so many years that you want to start to try and believe them because you think you build a friendship up. So I'm trying to believe Mike Colucci and that he's telling me that they're adding oil or water to the car, and that's what's happening there. But, yeah, I'm scratching my head, too. So the best place to go, why not go to the competitors? So I went down to Ganassi, talked to Tim Keen, and he said, you know what they've got is a little exit port as they're adding engine oil to the car. Now, we always anticipate that they've got to add engine oil, but he said, we've been paying attention to this. They are adding it a lot more than normal, and we've still got 3 hours to go, so we think this is a weakness.
Well, you'll be able to look on the lens of that camera, our camera there, and see whether there's water or oil on that lens, because it got a good dose of it.
I want to thank Robin Bragg, president of Daytona International Speedway, for joining us here. And we hope you'll be joining us for Speed Week's coverage on Speed. If you can't come to Daytona International Speedway, be sure to check Speed. We'll be offering programming daily from the infield here at Daytona. Plus, we'll have the duels at Daytona, the qualifying races, and the Camping World Truck Series race. To Justin Bell.
Well, it's a very interesting pit stop, this. The leading TRG Porsches, 66 and 67, who had a very comfortable lead on the field, have both come in under this yellow for their pit stop. Now, bearing in mind what I said about a little bit of not team orders on who should win, but certainly drivers don't mess with each other. They brought them in at the same time. They're actually going to go out in a slightly different order, which, if this was your Formula One broadcast, you two up in the booth, may cause some discussion on the internet.
I see.
What's the phrase? Conspiracy theorists, start your engines.
Oh, Rubens Barrichello getting screwed again.
Well,
It's the same thing, but without the paycheck.
that's right. As Patrick Long reassumes the lead over his Racers Group teammate, Emmanuel Collard.
Well,
That's another story not yet finished.
There was a certain 1,000-kilometer race at Watkins Glen in 1968 where David Hobbs and Paul Hawkins were leading their team car by a lap, but the team manager rather liked Jackie Ickx, and he wanted Jackie Ickx to win, who was a lap down, and he absolutely forced us to slow down, and of course in the end made me come in for a pit stop while they let Jackie Ickx get in front. And Jackie's comment after the race was, well, David, I like to win. I didn't like to add that I like to win.
Everybody
as well.
likes to win.
Yeah.
In fact, that story is described in greater length in John Horseman's fine book, Racing in the Rain.
Yes, even John Horseman felt a little bit embarrassed about that.
Yeah.
And the next day at Elmira Airport, the executives from Gulf Oil, who were our big sponsor, of course, the Gulf GT40s, gave Paul and I some money in kind.
And a nice warm handshake.
Well, a nice warm handshake full of $50 bills.
Well, that's nothing wrong with that either.
Certainly made up for it a bit.
That's right, just like television. All right, back to the action. It is Scott Pruitt right there to your left of your screen. Buddy Rice, Terry Borcheller behind him in the two Brumos Porsches, and then the number 10 of Brian Frizzell. And no, your eyes do not deceive you. With 3 hours to go in this race, the top 4 cars are nose to tail on the same lap.
I tell you, this race has been like this all the time. Every time we have any sort of a caution, yellow flag situation, we get back. The top 4 are just always, you can cover them with a blanket, which after 2,200 miles of racing is quite extraordinary.
637 laps complete. You might be asking yourself, well, how many laps will they go? We've already surpassed the winner's total in 2004 when they went just 526 laps in a weather-marred race. The next mark we'll be looking for was the 2007 total when the Ganassi team went 668 laps. Of course, they'd probably be the first to tell you the fewest possible laps as long as we win. And the overall all-time distance record is a massive 762 laps, 2,712 miles. Remember yesterday on Fox when I told you if the winners went 2,500 miles, that's the equivalent of Daytona Beach to Seattle, Washington. We go 2,700 miles, somebody's going to get their feet wet.
You'd be out in the sea on the way to Anchorage.
That's right.
That was
all-time record.
The track then was slightly different layout to what it is now, so the average speed per lap was a little bit higher.
And that was set by a trio of Japanese drivers and Swede Anders Olafsson in an all-singing, dancing, turbocharged, gazillion horsepower Nissan.
Oh no, that's Swiss to do that, isn't it?
And you saw the number 10 go by into third place past Terry Borcheller. Young Brian Frizzell at the controls of the SunTrust car. What a thrill for him. His father, Brad Frizzell, a terrific endurance driver in his own right, a winner of the 12 Hours of Sebring.
Well, I raced against his dad, of course, in Can-Am, and I was sitting next to him the other night at the Road Racing Drivers Club of America dinner at here at the Speedway, and he was saying how proud he was of his boys, and rightly so too.
Absolutely. His brother Bert
Boy,
is
here we
also
go
in the
again,
race.
coming into turn 1. Steady, boys.
Pruitt and Buddy Rice.
This is not your father's Lexus, don't forget.
I think that's an advertising mixed metaphor there.
Oh, no. Okay.
Driven.
Not your grandmother's Lexus?
The pursuit of perfection? Oh, I don't know. There is no substitute.
Buddy Rice has been really really getting the pedal to the metal, as Ken Squire would say in the old days. This whole 24 hours, every time he gets in the car, he is very, very fast in that 58.
We still got a long way to go. 3 hours of running. That could be 3 or 4 more pit stops.
You tend to think it's nearly over, but in fact, they're going to go another 300 miles yet.
That's right. On any other race weekend other than the 6 hours of Watkins Glen, we still have farther to go than they would on your average Sunday race. There you see the gap as it goes up and down, mostly down. Down the long super stretch. And on the brakes, we have a terrific finish in store here at the 47th Rolex 24 at Daytona. Kicking off Speed Weeks at Daytona for 2009. Stay with us. Plenty of drama to come, you can be sure. The history of the Rolex 24 begins in 1962 as the Daytona Continental 3-hour. Among the drivers, one young upstart from England named David Hobbs, and a guy who would go on to glory as a car owner by the name of Roger Penske. In the end, Dan Gurney had dominated so much that when his car broke down, he could park it at the finish line till the checkers waved and then coast across the line to accept the winner's trophy, along with Sterling Moss, who won a class that day.
It was an incredible field, you know. There was a lot of top drivers from Europe came over, and all the top Americans, and I met Glenn Fireball Roberts, spent a lot of time with him after the race. I stayed for the Daytona 500 and had a lot of good times with him and his girlfriend Judy, I think her name was. I remember dancing with her at the corner of Beach Street and Volusia Avenue at about 2 o'clock in the morning on the car radio.
Why am I not surprised? These beautiful overhead views of the race have been coming to us from the DirecTV blimp. We appreciate DirecTV for providing our aerial coverage. Now you can get over 130 of your favorite channels in HD on DirecTV. And
just a few minutes ago, Bob, you were saying when they said that they were going to keep the pressure on the 58 car, and you said, well, but their lap times have gone from like 42s to 44s and 45s. Well, you'll notice that now Scott Pruitt's got to the lead again. The lap time suddenly, Buddy Rice's last lap was a 43.1, which is really getting on with the program with 2,200 miles under your belt.
Now earlier, you may have seen this car, the 09 Spirit of Daytona, bursting into flames in the pit lane. Driver Guy Cosmo able to leap out of the car. Scott Russell, Mr. Daytona, the 5-time Daytona 200 motorcycle champ, was about to climb in when the thing exploded. They drenched it in extinguishing materials, took it back, fixed it up, cleaned it up. This was the scene, oh, the crime, as it were. A very, very frightening incident. As the flames burst up, they hit it with the extinguishers. The flames burst again. You see them under the car there.
It must have been a fuel spill of some sort.
There you see driver Cosmo bailing out. But there it is, and it looks like they're going to re-enter the fray. But meanwhile, up front, before we get to that, this is a challenge for the lead. Buddy Rice going by Scott Pruitt.
Whoa, 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 whoa. That left front's going to be like a threatening bit now.
That's the position that Buddy Rice lost on the pit stop when the Ganassi boys got Pruitt out quicker. Now let's see if Scott responds. Gets right up on the gearbox in the International Horseshoe. You want to up the pressure? Okay, here's my ante. I'm going to stay right here in your mirrors, so close you can see my eyeballs.
And you'd think this was the opening lap, wouldn't you?
Now, no sign there of that fluid we saw spritzing out earlier. Probably the reason Scott is staying to one side or the other. He's afraid at any moment he's going to have a windshield full. And now he pulls alongside heading into 6.
Well, he's
just scrambling to get by.
Traffic coming up.
Traffic ahead, yep. But he can use the slower GT cars as a pick. I hope they see them both.
Well, of course, that's it. They're full of their own thing. The sun, as they go up onto the banking now, the sun right in their eyes as they flick up onto the banking there. But Scott, you know, going from side to side, keeping Buddy looking in both mirrors, you know, flicking around. Where is he? Where is he now? Where is he now? And so hoping he might push him into making a mistake.
Saw a lot of dust in the chicane area. The number 63 GT car had a quick spin just as the leaders approached. Here's another look. Whoa! Evasive action having to be taken. Dan Watkins currently shown in the 63 car. Let's have another look.
That is a dense cloud of smoke.
Look, 2 cars ahead. Oh, boy, you've got to be on your toes.
You heard that rattling as it went over that curb, too. Got the wheel on the inside of that high curb.
There's the 09 back in action as the leaders go by to put it another lap down. Earlier, we looked at the 1962 footage, David, and we talk about the NASCAR stars coming over to race in the Rolex. That is not a new phenomenon. Fireball Roberts, and David Pearson, and Bill Elliott, and Mark Martin, and a lot of the stock car stars have been coming to this race virtually since the beginning.
Well, that race had Fireball Roberts. It had both Allison brothers in it.
Donnie and Bobby, yep.
Donnie and Bobby, so they were well covered then. But probably more, if I could just remember. I could see the entry list. I believe they had the entry list stapled to the wall in the Daytona International Speedway main building. So if you want to go and see who was in that race, it was a pretty star-studded field. 50-odd entries in that race.
They're how the NASCAR notables are doing currently in this year's race. And in fact, back in the day when NASCAR hadn't reached the heights of popularity that it has now, the original Bill France, Big Bill, William H.G. France, would come down here and go up to you European stars and say, hey, why don't you stick around and run some of my stock car races? I'll find you a car.
Well, he did think about putting me in the Daytona 500 that year, and because I drove a Holman and Moody Galaxy and did some laps in practice, and I managed to crank around at about 150 mile an hour. Fireball was on the pole at like 158 or something. And of course 155 to me was unbelievable speed, because I'd been racing a thing called a Lotus Elite before that, which would go about 120 downhill with the following wind. So to do 150 around here was pretty awe-inspiring. Luckily Dan Gurney drove it in the race.
Yeah, Dan was pretty good in a stock car. That's one of the things I love about racing history, and I don't think we talk about it enough. The great stars back in the day didn't confine themselves to one discipline. They might run several races on a weekend in different kinds of cars.
Well, of course, Bill put Jackie Oliver in a NASCAR car. He put Vic Elford in a NASCAR car. So, you know, he wanted to try and internationalize it as much as possible. And that's why he built this circuit, to internationalize Daytona Speedway.
And that's the idea behind the newly announced Sunoco Driver Challenge. Sunoco's European distributor has put together a program involving 4 British development series: British GT, British F3, the Speed Series, and the Radical UK Cup. And you will pick up points for your finishing position, 100 for a win, 80 for second, and so on down the line. And at the end of the season, the driver who scores the most points will have an expense-paid trip to the United States to test and then to race a Grand Am Rolex sports car here at the Rolex 24.
Oh, wow, now that is a prize worth winning,
I should say.
Yeah.
Administered by Anglo-American Oil Company, the Sunoco distributor in Europe.
It sounds like you're going to be pretty good to win it, though, which obviously is the whole idea of it.
I apologize if those of you fans of British GT series don't consider it development series, but an opportunity to get more European drivers exposed to American style racing as opposed to the other way around. Here's a look at your leaders in Daytona Prototype. They are also the overall leaders. We'll show you the same for GT. And as soon as I get off the air, I'm going there to get my own back massage. My reservation is in. Welcome back to Daytona. Here's a look at the highlights of hours 20 and 21. 24-hour race. You get your rest and relaxation and recuperation any way you can. Problems early on for the longtime GT contender, the 86 Varnbacher Lowles Porsche. That car and its sister, the 87, battled for the lead all night long. Greg Lowles from the team just cannot believe their poor luck this late in the game. Over at the Brumos Porsche camp, sentimental favorites here at Daytona. Things were looking pretty good. They were at or around the lead the entire hour. In hour 21, this scary moment when the 09 Spirit of Daytona car caught fire in the pit lane. After some very frightening moments, they were able to extinguish all of the flames, but the car, for all intents and purposes, looked like a complete write-off. You see the frustration in the mechanics' body language. We can't possibly be done. Well, there's more to that story. Meanwhile, down the pit lane, the Penske Racing Porsche Riley, that's been so much a part of the lead battle and the storyline of this race, in for extensive work in the pit lane. And we'll have to wait and see what happens. They are now 20 laps down, but we still have a long way to go. Problems? How about that race-leading 58 Porsche Riley? Buddy Rice hopped in, left a big spray of fluid as he exited. behind Scott Pruitt, looking for his third straight win. Scott was the leader then. He was subsequently passed by Buddy Rice, and it is Rice in the Brumos 58, that historic name and number, leading the Daytona prototypes and the overall. Patrick Long in the 67 Racers Group Porsche has moved ahead of teammate Spencer Pumpelly in the 66 car to take that class lead. And look at those numbers, 48 lead changes, 16 cars out of the race, which by Rolex standards is not all that bad. 648 laps in the books. We've already covered 2,300 miles, probably pulling into the state of Washington if we'd left Daytona, headed for Seattle yesterday. 4 cars on the lead lap and a record-tying 22 caution flags, but for only 90 of those 648 laps. There's your race leader. When we saw from onboard Scott Pruitt's car, his Ganassi Lexus Riley, after he was passed by the 58, we did not see any of that fluid blowing out the back. So for now, things look pretty good for Buddy Rice. Let's go to Chris Neville.
Bob, just listening to communication back and forth between Mike Colucci on the box and Buddy Rice in the car. After that wheel locking, Colucci hopped on the radio and said, "Hey, Buddy, is everything okay out there? How does the car feel?" Buddy responded, "Muy bueno, man, muy bueno." And looking at his times, the past 3 laps have been 2 low 43s, and the 3 laps ago, a 42.8. So that car still a rocket ship. Thinking back to what Tim Keene was saying probably about an hour ago, hey, we're all about pushing that 58. I think those guys right now, their hope is to just try and get a hook on it and see if they can keep it from running away from them.
All right, thanks, Chris. Once again, what a sentimental favorite, the Brumos Porsche team. They were here from the beginning at Daytona Prototype back in the early part of the decade. They have struggled getting to where they are, but now it all appears to have come together. And you heard Chris mention Mike Colucci. There he is on the war wagon. He is another guy like Kevin Doran, who we talked about a lot earlier. Mike has been coming to this race for a long time. He's been a part of a number of victories, and he has worked with some of the greatest names in American sports car racing. He knows what he's talking about when he looks at a car here in the closing stages of a race, in a position to win, but needing that help, that little extra boost from the pit lane, whether it's taking a few revs out, playing with pit stop strategy, doing whatever you can to get your car to the finish and to victory lane. On board with Patrick Long, the American Porsche factory driver, now back out front in GT. And with a comfortable lap plus lead over Spencer Pumpelly in the sister 66 car. On board now with Spencer. The Porsche factory has its own drivers. Well, you might say the Racers Group has their own fraternity of company drivers. Spencer Pumpelly, one of those. A terrific sports car racer. And Justin Bell has more on the 66.
My update from the management here in the TRG pits is that obviously part of driving slow at a slower pace also means that you have to avoid doing the mechanical operation of driving a car at a slower pace. If you start shifting the gearbox slower, you can actually damage it. So it's a really surreal environment for a driver. You're trying to drive to the pace. For once, you've got your team manager, your crew chief on the radio yelling at you to slow down to a pace. But at the same time, these sort of sequential gearboxes do not like you doing a slow shift. So it's a pretty odd dichotomy for these guys to be caught in. But they're running well, they're using lower revs, and it's their race to lose, isn't it?
I would say so at this point. But we still have a long way to go. Just under 2 hours and 40 minutes. There's the third place car in class, making up a trio of Porsche 911 GT3 Cup cars in position to sweep the podium. And another Porsche veteran, Sascha Maassen, originally from Germany, now living in Belgium. The Wright Motorsports GT3 Cup car, sharing with Philippe Martien, BJ Zacharias, and Patrick Pilet. The fourth place car in class is right there. That's the Stevenson Pontiac GXPR for Andrew Davis, Eric Liddell, Robin Liddell, excuse me, and Jeff Bucknam. Bucknam, another famous name. Jeff's father, Ronnie Bucknam, drove in Formula One for Honda back in the 60s.
He did. They plucked him out of SCCA and popped him in that Honda Formula One car. It was a most bizarre thing. But Ronnie drove a lot of big cars like GT40s and was a pretty successful driver. I was talking to Jeff in the airport the other day, and He's pretty pumped about this car. I think he's just been brought in for the weekend. I don't think he's going to be a regular. But also talking about Pontiacs, I noticed that Paul Edwards' car, which is fifth in the GT class at the moment, is in fact turning the fastest laps by far of anybody in the GT class. Patrick Long's turning 156s, and Paul Edwards is down in the 53s, 54s. So there we see him. He's really chomping on. Maybe they think they can catch that 57 car.
Let's meet the team owner, standing by with Chris Neville.
Well, Leighton Reese starting to look a little bit tired down here. Leighton, your car is turning the fastest laps in GT, but you guys are well back. But looking back at last year, you finished 7th, you won the championship, so running 5th right now. It's not looking too bad for the year.
Well, that 7th turned out to be critical, but yeah, we're going like our heads on fire. We got nothing to lose at this point, you know. I mean, it's a good base for that championship, which we're going to defend vigorously. But you know, we want a podium at least, you know, and we want to beat our kind of rival guys down the way here, Stevenson. So we're just going to hammer it and hope nothing else breaks. You know, this is a weird race. It's so tough. There's so few things that can go right and so many things that can go wrong.
You know, the rest of the season, the car is so strong at those racetracks. This place is so big, it's just not the right environment for the Pontiac. But why is it so important to win here?
Well, you know, this is the American version of, you know, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. It's so important. It's our Indy 500. It's just the pinnacle of U.S. road racing, and we want to win it.
You know, Leighton was telling me earlier in the week, and he said, you know what? We'd give up the championship just to win this race. And I think Pontiac would want that too.
I should say so in the current climate in the automotive industry. And Leighton Reese hit the nail right on the head. It's so hard to get it right and so easy for something to go wrong. We'll be back live to Daytona with 2.5 hours to go. Among the celebrity names forever associated with Daytona is that of Paul Newman. In 2004, he made his final appearance as a racing driver here in a car decked out in the livery of the animated movie Cars, in which he played a big role. And in 1995, Paul won the GTO division at the Rolex, co-driving with Tommy Kendall, Mike Brockman, and Mark Martin. The car, number 70, to match his age. Of course, we lost Paul Newman last year, a tremendous loss, not only to the racing world, but to the popular cultural scene in the United States, and of course, the world of philanthropy, having given over $250 million from his Newman's own line of food products to charity. Let's go down to Chris Neville.
Well, Max Pappas is stopping by to see his GM friends down here at the Banner Group. Max, problems with you and the Ferrari early this morning. Very fast car, but looking ahead the rest of this season, what do you have on the plate?
Pretty disappointing for the Ferrari. It was, very fast. But now we're going to have 18 Cup races with number 13 Geico car. It's an awesome thing. So really, really proud of that. And I'm going to add to that 6 truck races for Geico. And possibly some Grand Am races. I'm looking forward to run the races that we're going to be together, like Watkins Glen. And let me tell you, being here in Daytona is just special. And I'm looking forward to be here on the 4th of July, running my Geico car. And it's just like an amazing race. And you want to be in the winner's circle, but it's even great to be here.
Coming back to the Rolex Series this year, is it going to be in a GT car? Or are we going to see you back in a Daytona prototype?
That's what I want. I've been working on it. I would like to drive the Pontiac here with the guys, a Banner, but at the same time, I think that I'm working on a couple of deals in DP. That's what I want to do. And I think you're going to see me out there for sure. But in the meantime, go Geico.
Good seeing you, bud. Justin?
Well, standing here with Kevin Buckler, you're in an unusual position, which is enviable, but a tough one, when you've got 2 front-running cars quite well ahead of the opposition and quite a long way to go in the race. You've not issued team orders, but you've issued team pace orders.
Well, we have. Actually, we made an executive decision last night, early this morning, and it had to, we got to make a business decision. It came down to a 3-horse race here about 6 o'clock this morning. We all put our hands in, and we said, if the 86 car breaks, they ran a formidable race. If they break, wherever we are, we're freezing it. And that's what we did, no matter who was ahead or who wasn't. There's no reason to race each other. We want to, but it's foolish. And so
Well, let's talk about something far more important, and I know David and Bob will appreciate this. Your winery, Adobe Road, is just, it's winning its own race right now.
No, it's kind of a dream come true. 10 years of hard.
Oh, we apologize. We lost.
Competitions. We got noticed by the ones.
Sorry, we actually just lost your mic there. Bob?
Okay, thanks, Justin. Well, the pictures tell the story. Kevin Buckler's Adobe Road Winery has become an award-winning brand. You want to have a look for it. Try it at your local store.
He told me that they had a fantastic write-up last year, late last year, I think, in the Wine Spectator, which, of course, is the guru magazine for wine lovers. And they had an incredibly good write-up. And then, bingo, you know, the thing's just gone wild.
That's how it works, isn't it?
Yeah.
A little good publicity, and you're on your way. And Kevin takes that element of his business empire very, very seriously.
I like the idea of Max Papis driving for Geico, because
I can imagine a commercial with Max and the Gecko.
And the Gecko, would you be able to insure him?
That's right. I drive it at Ace Caro.
Hello.
On board the 67, Patrick Long taking it around.
What Kevin Butler forgot to say there, that when they froze their positions when the 66 was leading, then they had the pit stop, and now, hey presto, the 67 was leading. Can't quite work that one out. But it is 2 laps in front of Spencer Pompelli, so there's absolutely no way they'll be trying to change anything now.
I wouldn't think so.
Robin Liddell is still in front in the 57, in front of Paul Edwards, who is catching him up slightly.
That's in the GT category. Meanwhile, in Daytona prototype and overall, Buddy Rice, once again, no sign of that fluid out the back of the Brumos car, so Mike Colucci was shooting us straight.
Pulled out a massive lead, 9 seconds.
That's right.
After 2,400 miles. That's disgusting.
and a full 8 seconds back to the third place car from there. All 4 of the top 4 cars are within 25 seconds.
And they're all doing almost exactly the same time. Buddy Rice just at a 45 flat. Scott Pruitt at 44.8. Brian Frisell 45.6. Terry Borchella 44.6. Alex Lloyd in the 02 car a 45.5, of course, after their troubles. Alex Gurney, you know, in the 99 car, I mean, that had all those troubles in the night when Jimmy Johnson was driving. They had to change the gearbox, and they had to make some other big changes. They lost a lot of laps. Hey presto, here they are, 7th in the class. Not looking too bad at all. They've made up a lot of ground.
But they are 22 laps down. In fact, Alex Lloyd in 5th place is 5 laps behind that single lap that contains the 4 race leading cars. So it's a bit of a fall off a cliff after you get behind 4th place Terry Borchella. Right now, it looks like the overall will be decided between those 4 cars representing 3 teams.
The 2 car, which we were hoping for so much for, the Childress car with Casey Mears, Danica Patrick and Wallace driving it, is also a long way behind in its class, but has picked up a massive, it was at one stage about 35th in this race. It's now 9th. They have just kept plugging away, and now it's doing some good times, but unfortunately it's all too late. And as Danica said on that shot earlier on, you know, when you're 25 laps down after just a few hours, it's pretty depressing, which it is. But long distance racing being what it is, there we see the car, the Gentleman Jack car. I still think the Crawford is a really good looking car, and Max puts all his effort into it. Max Crawford, that is. Does a lovely job with that car. It's going to go through the year with Wallace driving it, and Finley.
Andy Wallace and Rob Finley.
And hopefully a new car coming on, which could be pretty interesting.
Nice paint job too. I like that black and silver livery.
But they had a problem with a bit too much downforce on the front, which meant they were slow on the straight. And the straight here, of course, being relative, that's all the way through NASCAR's 3 and 4 and down through the front stretch and through the tri-oval. And they were losing about 7 or 8 miles an hour. Well, of course, this place is all about speed. And so that's a terrible handicap to drag around with you. And then they had some problems as well, which pulling those laps down. But now the car is running very well, but unfortunately it's down in 9th spot.
We said it earlier, but it bears reiteration. for cars like the number 2 that are going to race the entire season, yeah, you may be 20 laps down, but you're still in the top 10 in class, and those are valuable championship
Absolutely
points.
valuable championship points. And of course, remember Max Crawford so nearly winning this race with Tony Stewart.
Man.
Oh my gosh, with just minutes to go, and that suspension broke going into the chicane.
That was one of the all-time finishes. Watching smoke wobble around on 3 wheels till finally the suspension broke entirely and the wheel smashed the bodywork, and they just could not continue within sight of the checkered flag.
Minutes to go. Yeah, but that's what this sort of racing's all about. I mean, and Roger Penske's had a dose of that today. I mean, they had this race by the scruff of the neck, and of course they've had their problems, and now they're many laps down.
That's what this race will do to you. Ask some of the former winners, like Rob Dyson's team that came so close so many times before they finally won it. Somebody's going to win it today, and we'll be here with you when they do. So stay with us for more live from Daytona here on Speed. Welcome back to Daytona, and with apologies to legendary Indianapolis Motor Speedway public address announcer Tom Carnegie, we have a new track record. Our 23rd full course caution of the 47th Rolex 24. It's amazing the race has gone down at such a fast average speed, considering 23 full course cautions. There's Claudio Burton, one of 5 drivers in the number 14 Porsche. Here's a look at what happened to him. This car is another of those that has just had a litany of problems. Looks like he got off driver's right, tried to correct, couldn't quite get back to the racetrack. I wonder if something broke on the car, because he got around that corner, pulled off and parked. You can see the new bumper on the front end. They have had all sorts of problems. And that's evidence of a team that just kept coming back out.
Fix up the old tow rope. Wonder if he just stalled it.
Don't know. Claudio Burton sharing with Jack Baldwin, Max McGahee, Corey Friedman, and Martin Ragginger.
You had an amusing conversation with Jack Baldwin this very morning.
I did, but Jack, who loves to tell a story anyway, was just going on at length. I mean, I got the part with, 14-part harmony and the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Poor Jack was just so frustrated, and understandably so. This happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and it's a long story, but off he goes.
Meanwhile, I had my breakfast, went to the room,
yeah, that's right,
packed, came down, and he was still talking to Jack Baldwin.
Yep. Jack's from my hometown, the Atlanta, Georgia metro area. He, Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, all of us come from there.
God, what a rough lot.
Lee goes off riding motorcycles with Jack a lot. I think Jack might want to go off on a motorcycle by himself for a while. It's been a tough Rolex for him, and he is a veteran of the Daytona Wars and a champion driver. There you see the time remaining, coming up on 2 hours and 18 minutes before someone is going to get a new Rolex Daytona Cosmograph. And every driver in this field, pro, amateur, American, international star, you name it, it all comes down to the watch. Time for the pits to open for the Daytona prototypes. Coming at you, Chris Neville.
And the 58, the 01, and the 59 all in pit lane here. Antonio Garcia is going to take over for Buddy Rice. Juan Pablo going to take over for Scott Pruitt in the 01. This is going to be an important stop here, guys. The 59 definitely pulling further forward, and the 58 stopping as close as they can in the back of their box, because we did see the 58 get pinned in the box last night. Now tires are done. The 01, they're just blowing this car out, watching the back end of the 58 to see if we see that oil. The team did not add oil to the 58 this time, so that's why we didn't see any oil in that car, and Antonio beats Juan Montoya out. Justin?
The number 10 car, brilliant stop. They were literally looking down the pit lane, trying to get out, trying to get that, kind of wish that last bit of the gas out of the tank, but it didn't work. They kind of held their position as they went up pit lane, but it was a picture-perfect pit stop for the 10 car.
And it appears that the cars will leave the pits in the order they came in. Buddy Rice, Scott Pruitt, Brian Frizzell, Terry Borcheller. There's Brian getting the best opportunity of his young racing career.
Boy, I tell you what, talk about getting thrown in the deep end in a GT, in a Daytona prototype here in the 24-hour. Deep, deep, deep into the race. And who have you got to take on? Juan Pablo Montoya. Good luck, Brian. How old are you?
He's always got a smile on his face. In his early 20s, his brother Bert was on the 61 AIM Motorsport team. That car, one of the half dozen or so Ford-powered cars that have retired from this race. Let's go to Chris Neville with Buddy Rice, who has climbed out of the Brumos car.
He's out of the car. He's looking pretty good for running all night. Buddy, awesome stint. Great battle there with Scott Pruitt.
Yeah, Brumos has done a really good job with this car. It's really nice to drive. Got a little bit of a flat spot when I went around him. Obviously, you saw the tire smoke and everything looked kind of retarded, but I overdrove it in just a little bit. Want to make sure we got by, trying to keep it clean, and we'll see it happen. Still a couple hours here to go, and see how it plays out.
Buddy, you realize after you did flat spot the tire, you did like a 42.8.
Yeah, it's the left-hand side. It doesn't really get loaded other than 2 turns, so I wasn't too concerned, but still, it's just shaking the car real bad.
Now, the team has been adding oil to the car. We've been watching that. They didn't do it this time. Is everything okay with the 58?
Yeah, this is all just a routine. We know what we need to be doing right now, and like I said, we're just going to try to keep plugging away, see if we can keep it where it's at.
Good run, man.
Well, Buddy Rice in a position now to join a pretty elite list of drivers who have won both the Indy 500 and the Rolex 24. How about this lineup? Juan Pablo Montoya, Dario Franchitti, Scott Dixon, Dan Weldon, Al Unser Jr., A.J. Foyt, Bobby Rahal, Mark Donohue, and Al Unser Sr. Scott Pruitt has also climbed out and handed over to Juan Pablo Montoya. Let's hear from him now.
Well, he was at the other end of that battle with Buddy Rice. That was some great stuff there, but once Buddy got around you, he started pulling away, man.
Yeah, I mean, they can just drive right by us. We got to be just on all the time. You can see when the car's working real well, we can jump off the turn and stay ahead, but as soon as they get little legs on us, they just go right by. So that's a bit frustrating. But, the Ganassi guys are doing good. Telmex car's running real good. So we'll just play it to the end right now.
Now, Juan's in the car. Antonio's in the other car. I mean, we got about 2:10 left. Are these guys going to finish this thing out?
Yeah, I just got done doing a 3-hour, so that was about it. I mean, I'm I'm pretty used up. Just trying to push hard, trying to keep it, trying to keep the pressure on. We got everybody beat except the 58. We can stretch on everybody else, but I'm afraid that they're going to have some sort of problem for us to beat them.
You ever have any feelings being part of a team for the whole season and having the guy who comes in just for the one race finish it up?
No, I mean it's all about the team. I mean we've been together for the last 3 years here, and we won the last 2. So, what can you say? I mean it's Juan Pablo Montoya. So it's if you're gonna have somebody else in the car, he's the perfect guy.
Now Scott Pruitt's going for his 3rd watch in a row. Great battle playing out here with just a little bit more than 2 hours to go.
Back live at Daytona International Speedway, and Speed's continuing live HD coverage of the 47th Rolex 24 at Daytona. We have just gone back to green. Antonio Garcia left to your screen, hounded by Juan Pablo Montoya, who got right up under that Porsche's gearbox in the infield section. Now Montoya, with all that IndyCar, Formula One, and NASCAR experience, drops back a little bit on the high banks.
Well, Juan Pablo has his trademark is he is awesome on cold tires, and after the pit stop like that, I mean those first couple of corners he just was awesome, but as the tires come up to temperature now, he's losing a bit of ground, because as Scott Pruitt said, the Porsche basically seems to have gotten them beaten here on the straight, the long straights. They definitely seem to have the legs on them, and as we can see now he's stuck behind the Pontiac engine car, the Gainsco car.
Yeah, that's John Fogerty, who will not get. Oh, I didn't think he was going to make room there.
The Gainsco car down quite a few laps. It's down, 20 laps anyway, 22 laps.
Well, with Antonio Garcia out front in the 58, that means David Donohue has a chance of winning this race overall 40 years after his father, Mark Donohue, did it. Let's hear from David now with Chris Neville.
Yeah, David's looking very fresh down here. David, is Antonio going to finish this thing?
It remains to be seen. This race has just been really amazing. The pace has been relentless. It's been pretty much flat out the whole time. I understand upstairs you're questioning the lap times. The one thing about this track is it's so climate dependent, or ambient temperature. As the temperature goes up, the track kind of slows. So sometimes that's why you see, or even sunshine to cloudy, you'll see the lap times change just based upon the climate conditions. But we're running pretty hard.
Antonio was kind of a late ad coming into this race, and he did have a wreck last night that put you guys a couple laps down. Any concerns with him being hunted by Juan Pablo?
Well, it looks like he's put a little bit of a gap on it. You know, our engineer Joe LaJoy and all our guys have done just an unbelievable job getting this thing together. We've got a real efficient package, and Darren as well for doing all the testing as I've been out with rehab. But yeah, we got our fingers crossed. It would be it's a long overdue win for us, and no matter how this thing ends up, I think we can come out with our head held high. People know we're here.
Wouldn't it be great to see these guys back in victory lane? Justin?
Patrick, you've had a very heavy workload for the past few hours. I imagine that running to a certain pace doesn't make your job any easier.
It's tough out there. I mean, obviously there's a big DP battle going on. Also just staying in a rhythm, staying focused. Just finished up a triple stint. This TRG car is pretty solid. It's never over till it's over, but I'm pretty emotional. This is the one victory that's eluded me for so long, so I'm pretty excited right now.
Tell me, do you start to hear things, see things, imagine things, feel them, I mean, through the last couple of hours?
Yeah, the stories that drivers tell are true, especially when you slow down. You start hearing pickup on the inner fender wells, and, you know, the gearbox, you got to shift it so smoothly. We're just nursing it home, but these TRG guys have worked long and hard, and they've kept us really, really held back during the night hours to try to preserve the car, and I think it's paying off.
You've got the best seat in the house to see how hard those front runners are pushing. What is it like when they come by?
I tell you, they are going for it. I could tell you who's leading and who's second just by how they come by and how they close the door. It's interesting. The last 3 years I've been out there in a DP car. We were leading last year to the last few hours, so I know what it's like for those guys right now. They're still in sprint race form, and they're tired and definitely stressed. So it's nice for us to have a little bit of a breather, but at the same time, it's making the time go by that much slower.
Well, I hope your emotions stay positive all the way at the end. Well done, Patrick.
You can see how much it means, and with all due credit to Patrick, he is 27 years old. David, care to give him some advice about going a long time looking for that first 24-hour victory?
He's got 40 years to go yet. And it may never come.
I couldn't figure out a way to say that. That didn't come out like a cheap shot, but there it is. And there's Brian Frizzell, 25 years old. He too would like nothing better than to check that Rolex 24 victory off his career checklist.
Well, he certainly could get on the podium, which of course would be great for SunTrust. I mean, that'd be what, the third time they've been on the podium? At least a couple of wins.
Yeah. Wayne Taylor knows how to win these things. He's done it a few times. So it's Garcia, Montoya, Frizzell, and that man, young Joao Barbosa, in the second Brumos car. So Brumos with 2 cars late in the running.
And, you know, we were talking about the lap times. You know, you started off by saying, why are they going? They say they're pushing hard, but they're going a bit slower. And I said, well, you know, the track's getting too much rubber on it, probably a lot of clag, a lot of dust, a lot of rolled up rubber. And the temperature obviously rising, so the track is going away somewhat. And they were doing 44s. Then when Scott Dixon got in the front, then the pace picked up. Now Garcia, his last lap, 42.9. Juan Pablo Montoya, 43.2. You got Juan Pablo pushing you. You know, the times are going to come down. So they're back down in the 43s, which is very respectable at this late time in the race. The temperature is way up on what has been all week. So that too will be affecting it a lot. The sun's shining right on that banking, putting a lot of heat into that banking and quite a bit of heat into the tire.
Anybody who's driven this race will tell you, you've got to lay it all on the line over 24 hours to win a race like this. And we spoke earlier about the passing of longtime Porsche PR manager Bob Carlson and how much he has missed at Daytona this weekend. Spare a thought also for a man who died back in 2007. His name was Bob Snodgrass, a partner in Brumos Porsche in Jacksonville, Florida, and a man who was behind this team not only in its Daytona prototype iteration, but going back to the days of Peter Gregg. Bob left us a couple of years ago, and what it would mean to him, and certainly on this day to his memory, if Brumos Porsche were able to climb the top step at Daytona in the Rolex 24 once again.
Yeah, both those Bobs, Carlson and Snodgrass, way too young to go. Very, very, very tragic passing of both those guys.
Here's a look at Joao Barbosa of Portugal, carrying the torch for Brumos. DPs fill the top 7 spaces and 8 of the top 10. The others are GT cars. We'll be back in a moment to Daytona.
This is the toughest 24-hour race in the world.
There's so many things that can happen.
But as an overall experience, this race is a battle.
The big difference here is car count and traffic.
The track is just brutal. It's not really a complicated track, but it is just brutal.
You don't win this race spending time in the pits.
You know, you just got to be really smart and you got to have a bit of luck.
I'd rather be lucky than good any day.
It's an awesome event and one that I really enjoy.
The 2009 Rolex 24 at Daytona began with all the pomp and circumstance we expect from this historic race. And as usual, once the green flag waved, the hammer was dropped, proving once again why this is one of the toughest races in the world. As day turned to night, it was time for the teams to strap in for the long haul. In Daytona Prototype, it was a Brumos, Penske, Ganassi battle royal. While in GT, the Racers Group took over after their rivals from Farnbacher Lowell fell aside with problems like this one in the pits. As the night wore on, the heavy hitters began to fall by the wayside.
You know, both our cars ran really well, and we had some motor problems here at the end, but Roush Yates always does a great job for us. We'll have to get it fixed and go on to VIR in April.
That race at Virginia International Raceway, a 2-hour, 45-minute affair at the end of April, must seem like years away now to the teams here in the closing 2 hours of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Here's how they stand in Daytona Prototype. A new generation running up front. 20-somethings. Antonio Garcia, Juan Pablo Montoya, Brian Frizzell, Joao Barbosa. Well, Montoya's a little older than that, but you get the idea. Then Indy 500 champ Scott Dixon, Timo Bernard, the Porsche factory driver, and John Fogerty in that 99 car. 21 laps down, but they have fought the good fight for 22 hours now. And they are still in the top 10 in class. In GT, Jörg Bergmeister leads a Racers Group Porsche 1-2. Patrick Pilet in 3rd place. Then Robin Liddell and Kelly Collins, and the 2 Pontiacs still in the top 5 in class. We are just under 2 hours to go here in the 47th running. Here's a look at the cars out of the race. A terrible problem. An engine component in some of the Ford motors has taken 6 Ford-powered cars out of the race, including both of the Chrome Racing Lolas.
And that number 6 car there took the lead with A.J. Allmendinger, who was driving like a little demon and had a terrific run, and we were just extolling his virtues when the thing quit.
Pit lane is empty right now, but we have more pit stops to come before we reach the end of the race. Once again, we want to thank DirecTV for bringing us our aerial coverage platform. If you call yourself a sports fan, you have got to get DirecTV. Now we've got debris on the track, and that is not a good place for it. Right in the tri-oval here at Daytona.
We'll nip downstairs, Bob, and go and pick it up.
Oh yeah, no problem. Yellow flag is out, our 24th, and that's a record number here at the Rolex.
Yeah, not the sort of record you want to break, really.
Well, fortunately, under the pit stop protocol here in Grand Am, under the safety car, they have been, thankfully, fairly short yellow flags.
Anthony Garcia has so far averaged 108.5 miles an hour. That's really getting on with the program day and night, including all the pit stops and, of course, all the caution flags. So that's a pretty fair old pace.
Well, yeah, all those cautions have contributed to keeping the top 4 all there on the lead lap. It makes for compelling viewing for us, but I'm sure it's making the drivers and teams absolutely crazy. You just don't get away from anybody.
No.
And there is Brian Frizzell in 3rd place for that race-winning SunTrust team of Wayne Taylor Racing. We asked him, as one of the junior drivers in the field, what it would mean to him to win the Rolex 24.
I mean, it just means so much. Now that I've competed in a few years, I know how unbelievably hard it is to win it. And you see the amount of great drivers that come from all over the world to try to win this one race. And if you were able to go out there and win it like this team has in the past, it would be an amazing feeling.
Ryan, his brother Bert, father Brad, the Racing Frizzell family from Aspen, Colorado. Ryan is in position to achieve that dream.
Well, of course, with all these cautions and a pit stop involved, you know, changing tires, doing it, just all it needs is one slip in the pit, that wheel nut sticks, you get it on wrong, you take it off, put it on again, you realize it's stripped, you got to get a new nut, and bingo, you know, you've lost 15 seconds. And the speed these cars are doing, how close, that's enough.
The stakes just keep getting higher on those pit stops as the end approaches. Less than 2 hours to go at Daytona. Don't move. Back live at Daytona International Speedway here on Speed. The 47th Rolex 24 at Daytona continues. I'm Bob Barsha with David Hobbs, Chris Neville, and Justin Bell are down in the pit lane. And you see the cars coming off pit lane, and the 01 is out front. The Ganassi Racing boys got Juan Pablo Montoya out front again over the Brumos Porsche squad on the pit stops. That is pretty spectacular work.
Well, they're just still trying everything to the bitter end to get that car over the line first, and who knows, they could easily do that.
Chris Neville can add.
Well, Bob, I think this comes back to something that we saw yesterday. The Lexus getting better fuel mileage than the Porsche. It might not have the legs that the Porsche has on the racetrack, but we definitely have seen the Ganassi cars going a few laps longer. So in this stop, it was just fuel, and the Ganassi guys got it done first because I think there was more fuel in their tank.
Thanks, Chris. As you see, just under 1 hour, 51 minutes remaining. Tim Keen looking around, shaking his head, looking for answers, the way a team pit boss usually does. So behind Montoya, Joao Barbosa and Antonio Garcia have the two Brumos cars, and Max the Axe, Max Angelelli, now back in the SunTrust car number 10, falling to 4th place with the extra time it took to make the driver exchange. What can you tell us about the 10, Justin Bell?
I was so excited by the pit stop, I think I called it even though no one was listening. It was an incredibly great detailed pit stop, but of course, as you say, Max did get in. Wayne gave me the nod when I asked, you know, is he going to stay through to the end? And he's the right man for the job, isn't he? But I tell you what, Grand Am racing is getting more and more like the closing of a Formula One race with these pit stops. We got, I guess, 1 or 2 more to go, and I mean, that you can see the tension on the team's faces. Every man knows they're just as important in the pit stop as the driver is for the other 55 minutes. It's just brilliant stuff.
Well, that's the $64,000 question, isn't it? How many pit stops do you have yet to do with 1 hour 49 and change remaining? There's Wayne Taylor on the left. He's been down this road so many times. And while we await the restart, speaking of somebody who's been down the road a few times, David, why don't you tell us about your adventures here at the Rolex?
Ah, well, here we are back in 1968 in the Gulf GT40. There's David York on the right there, Jackie Hicks on the left. There's a masked Hobbs at the wheel. We were doing very well, Paul Hawkins and I. The other car, Hicks and Redmond, spun at the kink in the infield, and somebody let the clutch out when it was going backwards, so that put us in the lead. And about 8 o'clock in the morning, I came in and it sprang a leak in the fuel. The fuel cell had worn out on the rivets on the inside of the monocoque. So that was very disappointing for me and Paulo. 69, I went back with Mike Hailwood. And again, what happened? I can't remember what happened in 1969. We didn't finish again. And the Porsches absolutely swept it there with... Then in 71 came back with the captain, Roger Penske, and the car was absolutely hit. It was the class of the field on the pole. We were leading by miles, and then in the night, as you can see from all the tape, Mark Donoghue got involved in somebody else's accident down in the NASCAR banking, and we spent about 45, 50 minutes in the pits taping the thing up and ended up 3rd. So that was my first step onto the podium at the Rolex, but very disappointing. I mean, we absolutely had that race locked up. Driving easy like these guys are, but again, because in those days there was no bus stop, so you arrived at the banking in that Ferrari at around about 208, and of course it would lose a bit of speed through the banking, but somebody spun and there was cars ping-ponging between the bottom and the top of the of the of the banking. Mark arrived on the scene and, of course, woed up like you'd expect him to do, and some back marker who he'd already lapped about 100 times went charging into the back of him. So, bit disappointing.
That's racing, as they say.
Yeah, and when they said that to me, I grabbed him by the scruff of the neck.
Brian Frizzell, whom we've talked about over the last hour, is now out of the car, and he's with Justin Bell.
And, you know, the only thing he had to say getting out of the car was he saw me dancing on TV, which is definitely not a sight anyone wants. Brian, that was a spectacular drive. You're hot and sweaty, and your family just went crazy to see you get out of the car. Good feeling.
Yeah, it was a really good feeling. You know, the first stint didn't go so well on that run. I think it was not quite as good of a set of tires, but the second set of tires were awesome, and the car was hooked up. I got to thank the SunTrust team. They made it happen all night. We had no major issues. Unbelievable effort on everyone's part. And
what is that thing on your neck? What's that stuff on your neck right now?
That's a wrap to help. I had a little bit of neck issues last night. I had some cramping, and we have some great physios and some doctors here helping out the team, and they helped this out and made it a lot easier on me on that last run.
And what about the foot? I hear there was something to do with that too.
Yeah, for whatever reason, my right foot was sticking on the throttle pedal, which isn't the nicest feeling when you're arriving at 195 miles an hour into turn one. But
well, I tell you, okay, got to go back up to the booth.
It's one day of doing a fast lap though, when your foot gets stuck on the pedal.
I wonder if those neck issues were due to the loads on the banking.
Oh, I'm sure they are, yeah.
Well, Brian's done this race before, but...
Well, it depends on the seat, you know.
That's true.
Yep. We were talking...
And the position.
You get the seat just slightly wrong, like Calvin Fish was saying in the night when he won here many years ago in the GTO. He got the seat wrong. The seat insert was wrong, which, of course, he said, I didn't notice in practice because you only do about 2 or 3 laps at a time. And he said suddenly when the race started, bingo, I was incredibly uncomfortable, which led to this awful cramp.
We are back under green. An hour and 46 remaining. And so much to be decided as the top 4 cars, led by this man, Juan Pablo Montoya, run nose to tail on the same lap. Scott Dixon in the 02 is 4 laps behind the race leader. Timo Bernard is now in the 16, the Penske Racing Porsche Riley. And they are well back, 15 laps behind Dixon. John Fogerty in the 99, Casey Mears in the number 2 car make up the top 8, and then the first of the GTs, Jörg Bergmeister in the number 67 Porsche GT3 Cup car.
Juan Pablo Montoya out front. They made the best pit stop there. They got out in the front of the line, and he is really trying to make a break here to get away from the 2 Porsche powered cars, which is going to be difficult. But like I say, you're down to 1 racing line through corners like this. There's no question of trying to get around somebody in there. You can't outbrake them anymore because it's just too dirty and slippery offline.
What a position to be in, though. I mean, you don't want to risk anything, but you're so close. One of these 4 cars is likely to be the race winner. Who is ready to risk everything? We're about to find out in less than 2 hours. Let's get down to Chris Neville.
Well, Doug Peterson and Dane Cameron are going to be 2 faces and names we're going to see a lot of this year in the the 3dimensional.com Mazda. Doug, hard.
Hey, we're having a great time here. We've got just a couple hours left. I'm going to do the best I can to bring it home.
Now, Dane Cameron, your co-driver, just 20 years old. A lot of people saying that he could really be a superstar in the next few years. Pretty excited to be driving with this young guy?
Dane is a superstar right now. It's just people don't know it. He has really, really done a great job, and I'm looking forward to helping his career along.
Sorry you guys have had a tough start of the year, but I'm sure we'll have some success later on.
Thank you. Yeah, great.
Well, there you go. Another young driver who has that one thing that young drivers need most. A man with the
money.
Resources. Yeah, well, I was going to use the word resources.
They took Brian Frizzell out of that car, and old Max Angelelli looking pretty racy in that number 10 car. And he'd dearly love to get around Garcia and set up in hot pursuit of Juan Pablo Montoya. I tell you what, Montoya hanging on to that lead there, and as long as he can keep that, time is really ticking down now. It's getting really critical because we've probably got, assuming we don't have another caution, full course caution, we've probably got 1 more stop.
There they are, the top 4 in the overall and the Daytona prototype class. This is going to be like high noon.
Oh, boy.
Everybody eyeing everybody else. Who's going to make the first move?
Oh, the 59 car stopping the 58 teammate getting through there. He went down and blocked him low. The 58 car has been quicker over the weekend, generally speaking, but Barbosa not going to let Garcia through.
The tension building here at Daytona International Speedway. Hard to believe after more than 22 hours of racing. But the most important 2 hours are still ahead of us. We'll be back with more from the Rolex 24 in a moment. February 13th here at Daytona, the tailgaters fly again as the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series returns to speed. Don't miss the Truck Series live from Daytona, February 13th, racing the way it ought to be. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the trucks under the lights. Part of Speed's lengthy, bulging coverage of Daytona Speed Weeks. We'll have programming every day. I'll be here for special editions of the Speed Report and, of course, the actual racing, including the duels at Daytona, the qualifying 150-mile races to set the field for the Daytona 500, and the Camping World Truck Race.
Those duel one, there's some of the best racing of the weekend.
Oh, boy. There is so much at stake in those
well,
races.
Exactly. They are very serious races.
Well, there's the 59 Brumos Porsche. 2 Brumos Porsches here running in the top 3 in the closing hours of this race. What a victory it would be just to make the podium, much less win the Rolex 24. But you can be sure that no one on that team is taking anything for granted, because it was about this time in the race just a year ago that their hopes were dashed. Dorsey Schrader and Lee Diffie on the call.
Porsche power plant, Riley chassis. They switched from the Fab car. They were very faithful to the Fab car chassis. Dave Clem and his team. But then when they switched to the Riley chassis, they found, oh, Barbosa's gone in the most spectacular fashion. Sideways, off the banking, and slams into the wall.
That's it. It's over for that one. I think this is a tire issue. I'm not sure yet, but something on that car let loose. That wasn't a mistake by Joao at all.
And that's how quickly it can happen.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely awful for the team last year, and this is...
There's Hurley Haywood. They were watching the monitors. They were afraid that was real time. I'm sorry on behalf of all of us at Speed, Hurley. A man of your age shouldn't take a shock like that.
Yeah, you'd be getting a heart attack.
Oh, boy. Proving once again that no good deed goes unpunished. There's your top 4. At this point, it looks like those 4 cars from 3 teams will decide things here at the Rolex. Once again, it's like one of those Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns. I think it's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where he and Eli Wallach and Lee Van Cleef are standing there in the cemetery, and they've got their hands on their guns, and it's a 3-way gunfight. Well, we're going to up that by 1. 4 drivers are going to be eyeballing each other, waiting for one to make the first move.
That flag you saw there with the red and yellow stripes, that's the oil flag, which also can mean debris on the track or dirt or whatever, but it's to warn the drivers that there is something on the track. I was going into the chicane. I tell you what, old Juan Pablo ain't going to give up easy here. Max Angelelli lurking in the background.
Looks like Juan Pablo's taking a defensive line through the tri-oval.
Yeah, I think he is.
Plant yourself right in the
Garcia
middle.
wants to get around Barbosa. Because that car, the 58 car, has generally been quicker most of the weekend. Ooh, look at this too.
Oh, we got side-by-side GT cars just ahead. Montoya's going to have to lift into the hairpin.
Big time lift. The 57 car doesn't know he's there. They touched. 57 cars just looking at the 07 car.
And those are the 2 Pontiacs, the Stevenson car and the Banner Racing machine, and they are battling for position. They are 4th and 5th in GT.
Oh boy, coming into that left-hand kink too with those 2 slower cars on the inside. That gives these Daytona prototype guys heart attack.
No change in the running order among the top 4. It's a 4-lap gap back to the 5th place car of Scott Dixon in the 02, the sister machine to this one. Let's make sure the 01 car is okay.
I think he just got tagged there by the Pontiac, but it doesn't look too bad.
On board with Juan Pablo. Let's listen for the contact. It didn't look too severe. Yeah. Didn't get that ugly thump. Of course, all of these cars have spotters up high that'll tell them, here come the leaders.
Boy, that's a wimpy thing, that spotter, T, I tell you. What do you think? It's
True racers don't use spotters, you're trying to tell me?
Of course they don't. Racing driver's supposed to be a racing driver, not... Now you can go, now you can't. No, don't hold back. What a load of wimps. Here we go. Garcia trying to get around Barbosa. He's not giving up without a fight.
No, and Montoya's escaped just that little bit.
Well, he will. What these two are duking it out. I'm a bit surprised that Angelelli's dropped back as much as he had. I thought he'd be taking advantage of these guys while they're at each other's throat.
He may have decided to lay back and avoid the shrapnel.
Yeah, avoid the flying bits of bodywork, you mean?
You can be sure Max the Axe is not going to sit back when it comes to money time, or should we say Rolex time, here at Daytona. We're going to take another break. David and I will step aside. Lee Diffie and Calvin Fish will be at the controls when we return. This is the 47th running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, live in high def on Speed, of course.
They say bad luck comes in threes. Well, that is not the case for Chip Ganassi racing with Felix Sabates here at the Rolex 24. 2006, Dixon, Weldon and Mears victorious. We fast forward to 07. Pruitt, Salvador Duran and Juan Pablo Montoya victorious. 2 from 2. Let's move ahead to last year, 2008, and with the quartet of Frank Kitty, Rojas, Montoya and Pruitt, it was 1, 2, 3. Strike 3, you're out. For everybody else, you're up for Ganassi. They're going for an unprecedented 4 Rolex 24 victories in a row. Hi everybody, Lee Diffie and Calvin Fish back with you as we look forward to this closing 90 minutes here at Daytona International Speedway. Brian Till and Kelly Stavis rejoin us downstairs as well for a gripping conclusion to this amazing race. Can you believe it? Here, these 4 cars on screen are the only cars on the lead lap, the only cars vying for those Rolex wristwatches.
And all of these 4 cars look extremely strong with under 2 hours to go in this race right now. I think Garcia may have a little bit more speed than Joao Barbosa, so we'll have to see how this plays out from the Brumos management. Will they allow a switching of positions to try and attack that 0-1 machine? But hard to believe that Juan Pablo Montoya, after over 70 hours of racing, hasn't been beaten here yet at Daytona. He's holding on to a tenuous lead, though. Those Porsches look a little bit stronger down this front stretch than the Lexus-powered Riley up front.
In either of the classes in Grand Am Rolex competition, it's all about choice. What car, what power plant, what chassis do you want to run? It is a Lexus-powered Riley leading, ahead of 2 Porsche-powered Rileys, and then the orange SunTrust machine is a Ford-powered Dallara, the only kind left in this race at the moment.
How ironic would it be if that Ford-powered Dallara can win this thing with all of the Ford problems in this race? They're still hanging in there. And Max Angelelli. Oh, you see a little mistake there by Garcia. Gets in too deep to the hairpin. Can Max attack here on the approach to the next corner? He'll slide it to the inside.
You don't need to give Angelelli too many invitations. Beautiful view from the DirecTV blimp high above. Montoya, Barbosa, Garcia, Angelelli.
Garcia took it in deep there. He slipped a little bit, but not enough for Angelelli to take advantage and get that spot away from him. Certainly Montoya's car is very quick through the infield. There down the backstretch, you can see the Porsche sneak in a little bit. Joao Barbosa very late on the brakes. I think Montoya is just trying to time this GT traffic. You don't want to get balked in the middle of the chicane. You need a good clean exit. He gets it.
Joao Barbosa has been victorious at the Rolex 24 in the old GTS class, never in the Premier class. He's a quietly spoken Portuguese driver who is very well known in Europe, but very underrated here in the United States. He shot into prominence last year with JC France claiming a top 3 in the championship. He is going for the biggest victory of his career right here, right now in Florida.
Around the outside, you see Garcia there picking up the draft on Joao Barbosa in front of him. He gets balked in traffic, GT traffic, Garcia slips, Angelelli's through.
Top 3 for Angelelli now. Wayne Taylor's man is there. That's 1 off the list. There's only 2 more to go before the SunTrust machine is back in the lead.
Traffic was definitely a factor there. And it's really just luck at this point. You can certainly time it when you're the leader. You can control the pace a little bit on the approach to some of these corners. Just stack everyone up behind you, take the track position away where they can't put it to the inside of the corner, and then just get good, clean acceleration off.
So much talk about using your brain, being smart, being sensible, but you also have to be decisive. When you see an opportunity, you have to pounce. You've got to capitalize on it. Exactly what Angelelli did right then.
So important for Montoya to get the lead on that last round of pit stops. He doesn't have the fastest car on the racetrack right now, but he is controlling the race.
Look at Montoya, Cal. He is gone. See you later. He has left Joao Barbosa to think about Max Angelelli. He's trying to eke out more of an advantage for the Chip Ganassi Racing Telmex Lexus.
Angelelli gets hurt there in traffic. He's going to lose time through here. Can Garcia take advantage as they now accelerate back up onto the banking?
Brian, talk more about Ganassi.
Well, think about fuel strategy, and Calvin, you're the master of this. If you're getting more miles to the tank than anybody else, which Ganassi seems to have done throughout this event, won't you be hitting pit lane at the earliest that the window opens? If you do that, you can get in, you can get filled, you're going to leave your competitors out on the racetrack, you're going to get back out on the track, you can lay those laps down and hopefully get in the lead that way.
Well, the one thing that you're thinking of there, Brian, of course, is that if we should see a caution, if the others pit and you stay out and you get a caution, pit lane is closed, so you immediately lose your advantage. So it's really a question of when can you make the earliest pit stop that will get you to the checkered flag here without an additional splash. So they'll be running the numbers, and you'd have to think as we look at this last few sequences of pit stops that the Ganassi may have a slight advantage there with their team.
Wayne Taylor, this is the only race that he does all year long. A former multiple-time world sports car champion, a Daytona prototype champion, a multi-time Rolex 24 winner. This is his one high point of the year as a competitor. The rest of the year, he said he doesn't really have a passion for driving anymore, but this event brings out something special in him, Brian.
And he has been spectacular in 24-hour races. This is Wayne Taylor's 28th 24-hour race. Not Rolex 24, but 24-hour races. They run them all over the world, and he's been spectacular. Only 3 times has he failed to score points. You guys talked about the building of this SunTrust team, putting all the pieces together. Wayne Taylor, obviously a very integral part of that. Like I said, only 3 times out of 28 has he failed to score points.
And they've had a very quiet month, Brian. They have not been one of the pace setters in the test here earlier in January or during the course of race weekend. And it's very easy to put on a brave face and just say, well, we're focusing on the race. But right now, that prophecy is coming true because Max Angelelli has a good race car. I don't think it's the quickest one out there, but he's in prime position here to take advantage of any slips by those 2 leaders in front of him.
Closest margin of victory was back in 2000 with Olivier Beretta, Dominic Dupuis, and Carl Wendlinger in the Dodge Viper. A little over 30 seconds, just shy of 31 seconds, the margin of victory. How does 1 second sound right now between Montoya, Barbosa? A further 2 seconds back to Angelelli, and another 2.5 seconds to Garcia. That's how tight it is right now. 4 cars on the lead lap. That is the best it has been for the past 10 years.
Angelelli, the fastest guy on the track on that last lap, a 1:42.5. Garcia, 42.7. Joao Barbosa, 42.8. Juan Montoya, 43.1. These guys giving it 100%. We spoke to Mike Hull earlier in the weekend about Ganassi's effort here. He said it's all about being in the right position, having a strong car for the last 3 hours, and having the right guy behind the wheel.
How about what Mike Hull told us the other day, Calvin? It's not one 24-hour race. This is 24 one-hour races, 24 segments. Are you going to be as good as you can be in that final segment? Are you in a position in that final hour to capitalize and to maximize?
Well, we talked about pit stops earlier as well. Take this to note, and we'll have to watch it on the stops. One thing Wayne Taylor told me was, I'm concerned about the battle in pit lane. It has been taking us longer to fill on our pit stops. He said, I don't think we can beat them in pit lane. We'll have to get it done on the racetrack. So they got a bit of handicap right now. And remember, once again, the Ganassi guys have been getting great fuel mileage today, Lee.
I asked the TRD technicians and engineers about that 2 days ago, and they said, well, not really. Look high on the bank here. Garcia is side by side with Angelelli. The 2 European drivers, door to door, and Angelelli has the preferred line down into 1, off the apron, and maintains 3rd. And the TRD guys said, well, don't get too carried away with that. We don't think we have exceptional fuel economy. They were being a little bit shady because all you have to do is remember the past few years with Chip Ganassi and the Lexus domination of this event.
Well, absolutely, and one thing that the Ganassi boys have done over the years is tried to run their cars in low downforce trim. What that means is you've got straightaway speed. You may not have the handling or the grip through these corners, but it also gives you great fuel efficiency, and that's really part of the plan here. The least amount of pit stops, stretching that mileage as far as you can.
Mike Colucci sits in the hot chair at Brumos. Will he be in the celebration chair?
I have to win the watch. That's what I'm always saying to my friends.
But to be able to have a Rolex just one, that's the goal.
If I could get that on my wrist, you know, it would be something I would cherish for the rest of my life.
As you can see, I'm not wearing a watch, so I'm waiting for that beautiful Daytona Rolex to sit there.
I want another watch, real bad.
I will not go buy a Rolex because I feel like I have to go earn it and win it.
Look, I've been wearing a Timex for about 34 years since I've been living in the United States. I'd love to shift to a Rolex. This is big.
Well, you can see just how much that means to certain drivers, and some of those drivers in that pre-recorded piece you can cross off the list. However, there are some, like Pedro Lamy and Brian Frizzell, who still are very much in the mix to grab that watch. Can Ganassi go 4 straight? Let's talk more with that team.
Chip sitting here on the box calling the shots. He was actually on the phone a little while ago. I don't know if you were calling your broker or what, but it's about time to lay the cards out. That final stop coming up soon. As soon as you guys get in the fuel window, are you going to be in here, Chip?
You know, Brian, there's a lot of race left. You know, it looks like we got about 1:15 to go or something here. And, I mean, those cars are awful strong. They're behind us. I mean, you're looking at every lap is qualifying out there right now. And, you know, traffic's going to play a part of it maybe. You never know. I mean, these guys are driving their heart out. I know that.
You talk about looking at their watch and seeing how much time is left. It was a Rolex you were looking at. Dario said the reason you went to 3 drivers this year is because they only give 4 watches and you didn't get one last year.
He's right.
There you have it, guys.
That's the way we like it, nice and honest.
Well, that man loves to win. He gives his boys the tools to get the job done and put together a great talent in the wheel, behind the wheel again. Montoya joining. Pruitt and Rojas will go for the championship, of course. But boy, this is tight, tense stuff, trying to weave through traffic, not make that mistake that can cost you victory here today. Hoping that GT traffic will see you. You have to make those moves, and you just pray that those drivers who are now tired after close to 23 hours of racing.
Angelelli's got an option for second here. He's got the nose up the inside of João Barbosa.
He
and
pushes him high.
Lara pushes his way through.
He saw the traffic up ahead of him. He had to get to that center line and push João up the racetrack. Can the Porsche respond down this back stretch? Angelelli will have the inside line. They're touching bodywork at 185 miles an hour.
Barbosa was not about to be muscled around by Max Angelelli. There's still an hour and a quarter of racing still to go. You'd think it was the last lap.
Well, that might as well be, Lee, because you have to get your car in position right now. That final pit stop will be critical. Here comes Garcia. He's got a good run off the bus stop chicane. Can he take advantage of Angelelli? Going down the front stretch, he'll have the inside line. It's going to be tough for Max to respond from there.
Keep it low. Go the shortcut. Go the shortest distance. He's got the line as they come through the tri-oval. Garcia puts his car in the best position. Suddenly Angelelli finds himself back in 4th.
You see the cars there weaving under braking. That is braking to the maximum potential of that race car as the tires are now starting to get worn. You see the rear starting to wiggle there as Garcia got on the brakes at the last possible moment, knowing that he's going up against one of the best in the business in terms of the late breakers in this field, in Angelelli. The 01 car has gapped these guys just a little bit. Traffic again playing a factor here.
1.4 seconds is the margin of advantage to one Pablo Montoya, ex-IndyCar star, ex-Formula One star. Now he's made his home in NASCAR, but I tell you what, he's made a very nice home for himself here at the Rolex 24.
Garcia to the inside. Can he take it away from his teammate? Has to tuck it back inside there. I think if it was one of the competitors other than the teammate, the Brumos car, he may have forced the issue there. He got a good run off that west hairpin, was in prime position there to take advantage.
It's ignited Garcia, hasn't it? He got a good look at what Max Angelelli did. Now he'd like to get up there with the Sister 59 car. The Brumos boys have had a phenomenal Rolex 24, and Barbosa shuts the door on his teammate.
Now Montoya hits a little bit of traffic in the wrong spot. He's booked heavily through the chicane. This will cost him about a second. Here come the Brumos Porsches.
The top 3 cars all have the same chassis. They're all Riley manufactured. Different power plants though. It's a Lexus leading 2 Porsches, and then we still have the SunTrust Dallara in the mix, the one and only Ford power plant left.
Close to 200 miles an hour here down this front stretch, and everyone is going to be using every ounce of that Pirelli rubber in the grip to get on the brakes late. Very difficult corner here down into turn 1. Very easy to make a mistake, lock up a brake.
1.4 seconds has turned into just 2 or 3 car lengths because of traffic. Less than half a second. Garcia looks for the alternative line again, trying to balk Joao Barbosa, his teammate. The Brumos camp, the Ganassi camp, the SunTrust camp, they're alive. There'll be no drivers having a little nap, an afternoon nap in the motorhome right now. All hands on deck, all glued to the television monitors.
Montoya really quick through that dog leg. His car's really hooked up there through this infield section. The key is he needs to get through these final 2 turns quickly with a good exit speed, good traction. You really need the suspension to work well here. It's pretty bumpy as you're trying to get the power down there. Again, you can see he gaps those cars. Will it be enough so that he doesn't have to defend down into the brake zone for the bus stop chicane?
One of the historical stories that we have mentioned many times during this broadcast, it is 40 years ago that Mark Donohue, the late Mark Donohue, was victorious here for Penske. His son, David Donohue, represents the Brumos team, and David is kitted up. David Donohue is in his pit box, helmet on, and Darren Law right behind. His job is done. Darren Law has contributed immensely to the Brumos campaign. His work is over for the weekend, but Donohue is ready for the final stint.
David has done a tremendous job in this race. He really put in yeoman's work. Here comes Joao Barbosa. He gets a run. Montoya goes high. Can he defend?
Look at Garcia. Garcia will look to pounce on the inside of his teammate as well. More GT traffic. They pick their way through around the Stevenson Corvette.
Montoya is doing a superb job by controlling this race, in positioning that race car exactly where he needs it to be.
Can you believe these guys, these teams, these drivers have been racing flat out for almost 23 hours, and they are still separated by nothing. 4 cars, all on the lead lap, all with a shot of being crowned Rolex 24 at Daytona champions. This is extraordinary.
Angelelli drops back. He got hurt in traffic on that lap, but there'll be an ebb and flow to this over the last hour or so. Timing is so crucial. Juan Pablo, he just needs to gap that traffic. He cannot afford to get balked in the wrong spot and have these Porsche-powered Rileys blast by him on the straightaway. This is exactly where you're going to start to pick up a tow, a draft here. About 4 to 5 car lengths back. Here they come. Montoya hitting his marks perfectly. This is where he's really good, getting off that chicane. He gets the power down early.
Angelelli is seeing this lead trio starting to eke away. He got caught behind some GT traffic entering the bus stop. That hasn't helped the Italians' chances. Meanwhile, this Brumos pair, just spectacular.
Here comes Garcia, he's got to run.
He likes that low line, he's very good, hugging the apron. Now switches to the wide line through the tri-oval. Barbosa is not being nudged, he's not being phased. He may not have a choice.
Barbosa doing a great job as well of taking away that low line just as he sees Garcia getting a run. He takes it down to that yellow line, forcing Garcia high. That's the long way around into that braking zone.
You have to congratulate the majority of this GT traffic. It is not easy looking in your mirrors as much as you're looking forward, but they're giving this lead trio as much track space as they can.
Clearing the traffic. Montoya. Just looking ahead. He'll have his spotter telling him where the traffic is. Timmy Keane and the boys on the pit box will be doing the fuel numbers. How soon can we get our man in for that final pit stop today? So good on the power off those slow corners. Here he comes. I think they're a little bit closer this lap. Montoya will see them in his mirror. If they get within an extra car length, he will definitely defend here down into the brake zone. Here comes Barbosa. There you see it. Montoya takes the inside away. This is where he good. He gets the power down there, Lee. Look at that.
It's as close as Barbosa has been in some time. Highlighting the international flavour of the Rolex 24. Colombian Juan Pablo Montoya from the Portuguese driver João Barbosa and the Spaniard Garcia. Leads the Italian Max the Axe Angelelli. All representing Foundation American teams.
This is tense stuff. Suddenly Garcia gets hurt a little bit. He had to be conservative there. He wasn't sure what that GT car was going to do. Wisely waited.
Are we set for an historic finish? How close can it be? Last year was littered with close finishes. Hey, I remember them, whether I want to or not. We are back at Daytona. The Rolex 24 is fast approaching its final hour. If you have just joined us, welcome. You've joined us for the best hour. Incredible racing. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Ganassi, Brumos, and SunTrust. The three teams representing those four cars, and they can all win this amazing race. We thank DirecTV once again for these wonderful images high above the Speedway. And if you call yourself a sports fan, you've got to get DirecTV. Over 130 of your favorite channels in high definition. Juan Pablo Montoya, who now calls the NASCAR Sprint Cup home, has very much made a nice spot for himself here at the Rolex 24. He's batting 1,000. 2 starts, 2 wins. He's heading for 3 from 3, and the Ganassi team 4 from 4.
But it isn't going to come easy. This is going to be the tightest one so far. Look at João Barbosa. What an impressive young man. He has really gelled with this Brumos team. He's brought JC Franz on to another level. He's got the legendary Hurley Haywood sharing the car with him, going for his 6th victory here at the Daytona 24-hour race. And Terry Borchell, he's won overall here before. He knows what it's like. He knows where victory lane is. Just a stunning job by this whole team. Going to be an interesting decision for the Brumos management. Do they put David Donahue behind the wheel for that final stint, or do they keep Garcia in, who is now in a rhythm?
The Brumos team are synonymous with Jacksonville here in Florida because of the dealerships and where the race team was originally placed. However, they have made their move to just north of Charlotte, North Carolina, and they're about to move into their new headquarters as we go under our 25th full course caution. More yellows than last year, and we've already eclipsed the total lap count as well. Now working lap 701. Last year's total was 695.
Well, this is exactly about the time we would expect to have seen green flag stops for these front runners anyway. So the key is going to be, as Chris and Brian have talked about, seems like the Ganassi boys may be getting their fueling a little bit quicker, and also maybe not using as much, so you'd have to think the advantage will lie with them even under this caution flag here in getting the fuel in. We don't anticipate a driver change in the 01. There may be one in the 58 machine. I would think Barbosa will stay behind the wheel of the 59. Angelelli will stay behind the wheel of the 10 car. It's going to come down to fueling. The tires should take about 15 to 16 seconds, but a full fuel load is around 30. So if you don't have to put a full fuel load in, that can easily save you those few seconds that will get you off pit lane first.
The Grand American Road Racing Association was born in 2000, began racing in 2000, and ever since then, the most cars on the lead lap at the finish of a Rolex 24 has been 2. We have 4 at the moment. Brian Till, this is setting up for an amazing finish.
Man, it doesn't get any better than this, and it should be just about a full load on everybody's car. We talked about Ganassi getting better fuel mileage, so maybe a gallon or 2 less. Could that be the difference after 24 hours, these 4 cars running so close together at the end? Could it come down to just a couple of gallons, maybe a second and a half on pit road?
Well, it certainly could, Brian. Just to explain, you see those GT cars getting the wave around. Essentially, the pace car jumps out, and they want to come down pit lane for the first time with the DP leader, Daytona prototype leader, which is Montoya, of course. So these other guys get waved around, part of the strategy. There'll be teams fighting for those next positions will be relishing this opportunity with a yellow to play some strategy, but this is where this race could be won here today, because we have seen Montoya control this race from the front lead. It's essential that Ganassi team gets the job done in pit lane one final time.
It seems in his previous 2 victories at this stage of the race, there's always somebody throwing out a challenge at JPM, but he handles it so coolly. He is a feisty driver, sure. He gets a little wound up, but boy, when the pressure is on, he knows just how to meter his emotion and get the job done. Look at that, 13 seconds until we are inside our final hour of the Rolex 24.
And the key is you just hope that you get a good set of tires on. They're all good, but sometimes they just come in, pressure up a little bit differently, just give you a different sweet spot with a race car. You're just hoping that that final set is a really good set and going to give you the performance you need for this run to the checker today.
Just got a quick glimpse there of the hardware, the significant trophies up for grabs here at Daytona, but we know what it's all about. It's about that beautiful Rolex wristwatch. Final 4 are in. This is what matters. These are the only cars that can win this race overall. Let's get to the pits with the boys.
Brumos to the marks, the 59 in first, then the 58. It's going to be a routine stop. David Donahue will climb in the 58, so this might take a little bit longer, but remember, a full load of fuel takes about 30 seconds. You should be able to get a driver change done by then. He knows this car, he knows it well, he's fresh, and he is hungry. Let's go back to Kelly in the 01.
The 01 just waiting, getting their last bit of fuel in here as you expected. No driver change. They got the fresh rubber on there, and now they're pulling out. Can they beat him?
They do, and the 58 beats the 59. Where's the 10? They're still stationary.
Has not left, now it rolls.
Montoya maintains the lead. Now Donahue is up to second.
And look at the Ganassi boys, they're pumped. Kent Holden and the boys, Cato and his men have performed everything that has been asked of them. And if you don't think there's some emotion inside the Donahue helmet, look out. The final hour coming up live on Speed.
Certainly our sport is unique in that our Super Bowl is the first game.
The Rolex 24 is #1 on my agenda to win. To me, it's the biggest race there is. As you look through the lineup of drivers, you can see guys from around the world that have won championships.
Any race is hard enough to win, but 24-hour, it's really tough.
Everything has to be ship-shape, tuned up, on the mark.
You're basically running an entire season's worth of time in one race. You gotta be consistent, you gotta try to keep the car on the road. It's hard.
One mistake will cost you an opportunity to win.
All I care about is winning.
Winning the race, the 24, it's everything.
I've got a burning desire to win it.
I'm giving 1,000% to win this race.
It's the most important race of my career.
Andy Lally saying it is the most important race of his career, and he, your Bergmeister, RJ Valentine and Patrick Long are poised for a Rolex 24 GT class victory. They could be standing up here in less than an hour's time. So too could a trio and a quartet of drivers standing by with Brian Till.
Well, no one has left pit wall down here in the Brumos camp. Everybody watching the cars out there, and Antonio Garcia just got out of the car. Buddy Rice with some great stints through the night, and Darren Law, you guys have done a lot of pit stops in this team's history in today's race, but I haven't seen one executed as well as I saw that last one.
You know what? It's come down these last 2 hours. It's come down to the pit stops and getting track position because the cars are so close. But I'm hoping we did the right thing. We feel we're at somewhat of an advantage. David has. It's been the longest since he's been in the car, so he's the freshest out of all three of us. So I'm hoping that helps us here for the last hour.
And emotion. How much emotion is inside that helmet right now in that car?
Oh man, you know I can't even tell you. We're all just. I can't even watch.
Well, you better watch. Here we go.
Yes, here we go. Garcia and Buddy Rice will hang on, just like Chip Ganassi, who's heading for his 4th consecutive victory, because it's his car out in front with Juan Pablo Montoya taking the green flag. 53 minutes left to go here at Daytona International Speedway to conclude the Rolex 24. The
Montoya
58
there,
car.
weaving just a little bit. There's some smoke there on the back of the 58. We've seen it earlier in the race. They've said it's no problem. Hopefully it won't rear its head here in the final hour. Donahue has to get back in the rhythm. Remember, Montoya had a great stint behind the wheel. David's had some rest. He's got to feel this car out.
Only one driver change executed there. How were they able to do that so fast?
Well, you have to think back to that final stint. Joao Barbosa was leading Garcia. Garcia, when he's in the draft, would have been able to save a little bit of fuel. So when they came in at the same time, you would have to think there's a little less fuel needed to top up that 58 machine than the 59. Donahue immediately looking racy. Juan Pablo had to defend there. He doesn't have the gap that he's had on previous laps over this Brumos Porsche. David Donahue may be close enough to get up on Montoya here down into this brake zone.
Darren Law said it. He is the freshest of any of these four drivers out there. He's the man who's been out of the car longest, and he slingshots off the bank. Here he comes at Montoya, applying the pressure down to the bus stop. They almost touch. He's on the wide line, down into the chicane, and he'll have to tuck in back behind JPM.
This is a different game right now, Juan. He felt the pressure from Barbosa, but David Donahue, he wants to see that 24-hour win for the very first time with his name. Not Mark Donahue, David Donahue. Who wants to join the winners here?
Tim Keane and Chip Ganassi are glued to the monitors down on pit road. They are watching their man fight off this intense battle. The pressure is coming from David Donahue like we've never seen. It has been 6 years since Brumos has won in Daytona prototypes. It's been over 30 years since this iconic sports car team has won the Rolex 24 at Daytona. This is intense, Brian.
Mike Colucci stepping off the box to a Grand Am. Officials going, how many lanes of traffic does Juan Pablo Montoya get to use? He's weaving all over the place, guys. You got to help us out a little bit. But my understanding is when you're in front, you get to choose, guys.
And I don't think he's really weaving that much. I think he's just reading the gap that he has when he comes off that infield and recognizing where he needs to have his car placed. He's done a masterful job of it so far, but when they start to catch up with that GT traffic in a lap or two, then is when it's going to get very difficult indeed.
3 different power plants in the top 4 positions. Lexus, Porsche, Ford. 2 different chassis, Riley and Dallara. And the Italian manufacturer will be delighted to be in a position to win this amazing race.
Tire pressures will be up now. The cars should have stabilized a little bit. The cars will be pretty much at their ultimate here. The tires are at their freshest. Heavier fuel load, of course, so there's kind of a double-edged sword there. As the fuel load goes away, the car gets a little bit quicker, but then you start to lose grip. Who has the best race car for this final stint? Mike Hull talked about it. We have to position ourselves to be in the right spot with the car with the right setup, with the best driver behind the wheel. He's got 3 great drivers here this year for the 01 team. There wasn't a weak link, but you'd have to think that Montoya is probably the feistiest.
Trying to get some advantage, trying to get a little bit of a tow, a little bit of a draft. David Donahue tags in behind Montoya, then draws alongside him. Rides up high. Does he get a better slingshot this time round? Takes the wide angle. Well, now will he switch back? Trying to force Juan Pablo Montoya into a mistake on the infield.
David is looking awfully racy. His car is feeling so good. He's really got a great rhythm going already. This is a different matchup. He's putting Montoya under a lot more pressure than Barbosa was able to on that previous stint. See a little bit of body work there on the right rear fender on David's car. Looks like it may be dropped a little bit. Those fences just add a little bit of downforce.
David is a class winner at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. He's a race winner in Grand Am. He was one of the leading drivers in the North American Super Touring Championship, but this is the drive of his career, driving for the biggest title of his career.
Montoya gaps them a little bit. Barbosa is closer to David. Angelelli sits back, watches.
He's just searching for those alternative lines, just coming out of the traditional line, filling Montoya's mirrors with the front of that Brumos Porsche Riley.
How much of those tires did he use up in that really aggressive opening few laps on this last stint. David was pushing really hard. You have to manage the tires a little bit on these race cars. No traction control any longer in the Rolex series. It's all done with that right foot. Here comes David Donohue. He gets a run on Montoya again. He holds the inside. Donohue to the inside.
He's been looking for the alternatives, hasn't he? Lap after lap after lap. Montoya is under siege with 47.5 minutes left here at the Speedway. Will it be Ganassi to prevail? Will it be Brumos in an historic victory or a surprise victory? The first for Dallara in the Daytona prototype era at the hands of Max Angelelli.
I thought Montoya may have left the door open there. He'd been hugging the inside line all the way down into the braking zone for turn one. He went up high. David immediately took a look. Pressure cooker situation for Montoya. He does not have the fastest race car on the track at the moment, but he has the lead. He has the track position. The pit crew did that for him, and he's hung on to it.
What's been going on the radio chat, Brian?
Well, when David Donohue got in that car, all these drivers have a driver ID. They have to plug in when they go past timing and scoring. It identifies them. The first couple of laps for the 58 was not working. Mike Colucci got on the radio and said, David, we need you to plug that in. Very casually, he said, it is plugged in. That next lap, it clicked off. And when he got on the radio and Mike Colucci said it's been corrected, David, going through the kink, flat out behind Montoya, goes, well, I thought it was. I didn't see any problem with it in the beginning, so I don't know why it wasn't working. Downshift into the hairpin.
He's calm. Meanwhile, applying the blowtorch to Montoya.
Remember, they had the change in the off-season with the Porsche motor. Increased capacity. It has really made them come out of the box awfully strong here. Now we see Donohue with a great run. He almost goes down on the apron. That is fair play. They can use all of the racetrack. Montoya still hangs on to the lead.
It's going to be the long way round. The very long way around into one. He's going to switch it back here again just to annoy Montoya. Just to let him know that he is very close. One slip, one mistake, and Donohue will pounce. Don't discount Barbosa or Max Angelelli as well. We need to go to a break. Wonder who Chip's texting. He's nervous. So too is Colucci. If you've just joined us, there is historical significance to this event today. Working all the way back to 40 years. Mark Donohue, the late Mark Donohue, victorious here at the Rolex 24 in 1969. His son David is in the middle of one of the most intense racing fights you have ever seen. We welcome you back to Daytona. The second car on screen is David Donohue, chasing one Pablo Montoya, fending off teammate Joao Barbosa with Max Angelelli trailing. 4 cars on the lead lap vying for the victory of the Rolex 24 at Daytona.
Montoya has won so many races in his career, but I'm not sure he's ever had one with this amount of pressure, sustained pressure over the course of the last 2 hours. He is just doing a brilliant job. Gets off that corner so well. Some of that will be the handling, some of that may be the torque of that V8 versus the 6 cylinders in the Porsche-powered cars.
Look at this, look at this. This is what David's been doing. He's been drawing alongside Montoya down into the bus stop. Just annoying him, just being an interference. There's traffic ahead, the PR1 Pontiac. That will slow Montoya up. Who gets the better run out of the bus stop?
David's got a run on him. Montoya did the best he could, but David has definitely got a good run on him. There's traffic up ahead as well.
Montoya's going to have to go high. Donohue is highest on the Speedway on this 31-degree banking.
Road is clear ahead of them. Montoya.
He's ahead!
David has got the run. He's got the lead. David Donohue takes the lead with 40 minutes to go.
It was that run out of the bus stop. That traffic came into play. Now look how tight this 4 is. Montoya looks for the inside and gets squirrely. Barbosa's looking for an angle, and so too is Angelelli.
Montoya has to respond. He has to respond quickly. He knows David Donohue has probably got a faster car. He needs to take advantage through this infield somewhere. He's going to get aggressive. Donohue locks a brake. He goes wide.
He's got to look behind because Barbosa will come. He's going to try and get up there and help his teammate as well as help his own chances. But there's some margin now. Can Donohue skip away here? Darren Law, Buddy Rice and Antonio Garcia, can you imagine how they feel back in the Brumos camp right now? Can the Ganassi squad respond at the hands of one Pablo Montoya?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. This is where he had the advantage, getting off this corner. Can he get alongside David Donohue? We know Donohue has shown great speed here up on the banking. Now it's Montoya's turn to get in that draft, but look at that Porsche, stretched just a little bit. Some of that may be downforce.
Montoya has superior strategy on the banking because of his NASCAR Sprint Cup experience, but he's got to be close enough to David Donohue to use it.
Look on the rear wing, you can see that gurney flap or rear wicker seems to be slipping down to the left side of the race car. That'll be a little bit of a factor. All it's going to do for Montoya, though, is going to mean that Donohue may have more straight line speed, but that's by the by. He gets a good clean run through traffic. Now Montoya will have to defend from Barbosa. Donohue stretching it out.
Look at the margin that he's put on Montoya in one single lap, 3.5 miles around the Daytona International Speedway road circuit. Tell you the split exactly. It's half a second, 0.6 of a second he's put on him in one lap. Now comes Barbosa at Montoya.
58 car, half a second faster on that last lap, with the pass that was made as well. Montoya hard at work. How does he get this one back? The team can't help him now. It's all down to the driver. He needs help. He needs help in traffic. Hold on to that lead for so long.
This was the class-leading car in GT, the 86 Farnbacher Lowe's Porsche that Donohue has just rounded up. Cost him maybe just a 10th or 2 there, but he's still got that healthy margin, hasn't he? 38 minutes to go.
Angelelli close to the 59 machine. He's got a good run. Barbosa will need to defend here. Here comes Angelelli.
Can Barbosa do anything to mount a challenge to Montoya and make it a Brumos 1-2? Has the SunTrust Dallara, powered by Ford, got anything left? It's a huge accomplishment. First time for Wayne Taylor's men in the Dallara at this race. And they are on the lead lap. Let's relive the moment where David Donohue mounted his challenge on one Pablo Montoya. This was a couple of laps ago, down in the bus stop chicane, and this is where he began his charge.
Well, he tried to back out of it a little bit and get a clean run through that bus stop chicane, but it wasn't enough. David Donohue was on the gas early as well, immediately gets to the high side, traffic in front, one stays in the middle of the road, and David just takes it high. Nothing that Montoya could do. The traffic just stymied him enough this time that he was defenseless there for the lead.
That put the Brumos 58 in front, and David Donohue has not looked back. We bring you back to live images. This is the margin. It's about half a second. Donohue to Montoya. Do you know, I think off the top of my head, this is the 80th Daytona prototype race in Grand Am competition, and this man here on center stage has done every single one of them. David Donohue has competed in every single DP race in the history of this series.
Well, it's an invigorated David Donohue over the last couple of years. He's really taken a new intensity to this program. He was always really focused, but he's lost a lot of weight over the last couple of seasons, and they're just looking at every angle in terms of getting a performance advantage. And boy, what a job they've done here this weekend. Round 1 of the 2009 championship.
Well, this has had all of our attention, and it's very gripping. We need to update you on GT. Andy Lally is still the class leader and headed towards victory lane in just over half an hour's time. His teammate and good friend, and recently married, we should say, congratulations to Spencer Pumpelly, sits second in the second TRG Porsche in the 66. We ride with Andy right now. Patrick Pilet in the Wright Motorsports 33. That car has been outstanding today, just been chipping away, and for Doug Wright, he'll be very pleased with that. That is a very impressive effort. Jan Magnussen for Banner Racing is fourth. And then Kevin Roush in that 86 Farnbacher Lowe's Porsche is in the top 5 ahead of Robin Liddell. Steve Johnson, the big dog, is in the top 10 in class ahead of Wolf Hensler. And then Randy Popst and Matt Plum.
We still look at the Daytona prototype battle on the right side of the screen. There you see Barbosa A little bit closer to Montoya, probably not close enough to mount a challenge as they come through turns 3 and 4 on the NASCAR banking. Montoya needs help. He needs a gaggle of that GT traffic to balk David Donahue and give him a chance at sneaking the lead away. Meanwhile, Andy Lally just trying to get it home. 32 minutes to go. The car's been perfect. The new 09 Porsche GT car looks like it's going to win on debut.
Andy will be here at Daytona International Speedway for the Camping World Truck Series race during Speed Weeks, and he's really looking forward to that. That's all he has at the moment as far as stock car and truck racing for this year. He was on a more lengthy program last year, but he will focus on the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series GT Championship this year with Justin Marks, who has also spent a couple of years in stock cars. He returns to Grand Am.
David lost a little bit of ground there negotiating that GT machine. Montoya is definitely closer. Donahue, again, traffic he had to clear. Montoya is much closer, but this is where he does not have an advantage over the 58 car in front of him. But it keeps the pressure on.
Stretching his legs once more. Down the back towards the bus stop. And able to just pull out that margin again. It's equidistant, 1 to 2 to 3, isn't it? Barbosa has a good look, but he just can't get close enough to Montoya to help his teammate out.
Watch Montoya off this chicane. He really gets the power down well. The torque of that Lexus V8 really gives him a good launch there, but it's not enough.
"30 minutes remain here in the 47th running of the Rolex 24. This is heartbreak or hero time. And these 4 cars and the combinations of driver talent for these 4 organizations, these 3 organizations, 4 cars, has just been spectacular. Chris Neville.
Lee, it's pretty quiet from the top 3 cars. The 01 and the 59 absolutely silent. The 58, they are calling out sometimes for David Donahue on the racetrack. Now the 10 car, they're definitely getting behind their driver, trying to push him along, making sure that their spotter is knowing exactly where our cars are around the racetrack. So a little bit more talk for Max Angelelli, trying to get him back up on the podium.
Traffic right there.
Same spot again, Cal.
Fortunately, that car tucks to the inside, doesn't impede David Donahue. Montoya gets a good run, but again, I think David will probably stretch it even with Montoya in the draft by a car length or 2. Barbosa in 3rd. Didn't get a podium, he and JC France last year, but they did have 5 times in the 4th position, including 3 in a row to finish off the season and capture 3rd place in the championship.
Barbosa is closer, 1 lap later into the chicane, but so too is Montoya.
Right there, he gains a little bit, but it's not enough.
If JPM's going to get him, where's he going to get Donahue?
Well, it has to come into one of the braking zones. He certainly doesn't have the acceleration advantage that it seems the other cars have down the straightaway, so he needs traffic. He needs to be really close to David, and then you know he'll be aggressive. If there's even an inkling of an opening, he is going to be going for it. He's going to have to be really aggressive. He knows it may be his last chance if he sees one.
Quick flick of the headlights there from David Donahue to alert that GT traffic that the leaders are coming through. 7 Formula One Grand Prix victories to 1 Pablo Montoya, 30 Formula One podium. He knows what pressure and success is all about, and that's why he is thriving on this right now in the Telmex Target Chip Ganassi Lexus Riley.
Montoya needs a little bit of racing luck. He needs David to get a little bit of bad luck in terms of how he hits the traffic here in this final 28 minutes. Both cars look to be working really well. Pirelli tires seem to be working really well here. It's a new Pirelli tire they've developed over the off-season. Always concerns with teams when there's an adjustment, but over the course of this race weekend and the testing that they've done, certainly the cars are handling really well here.
It's one of those harsh realities of television where we need to go to a commercial break. There's history on the line here, there's prestige on the line here. Pruitt is a passenger from here. Will he be standing atop the podium when we come back? We're far from done here at the Rolex 24, but once we are complete, there's so much more coming up on Speed later tonight, including right in the middle of that menu, 7 p.m, the Speed Report, where Ralph Shaheen and Adam Alexander will bring you up to date with all the happenings of the weekend, including a highlights package from here, the Rolex 24 at Daytona. We welcome you back. We say hi to David Hobbs and Bob Varsha. They join Calvin Fish and myself, Lee Diffie, here in the booth for the conclusion. And Bob, this is something special. This is unprecedented. That was a popular term in the political circles with the recent election, etc., and also with the financial climate. But this, in racing terms, in Grand Am and the Rolex 24, is unprecedented.
Lee, watching you and Calvin working and looking out the announce booth window over the last hour, it strikes me that this year's Rolex 24 has a lot in common with the finale of the Formula One season in Brazil last year. The kind of finish that everybody for many years to come is going to want to say they witnessed.
Boy, there again, David Donohue got balked going through the bus stop chicane at the back, and he hasn't got quite the initial torque the Lexus has got. And I think the setup on, quite honestly, on Juan Pablo's car is slightly better for these slower corners. Juan Pablo Montoya's car is definitely quicker as it goes through that turn 6, the tight part of turn 6. He jumps ahead just far enough that Donohue had a heck of a jump. Well, it took him lap after lap to get by him. But after then, he starts to lose ground. So it's a massively interesting technical battle here.
I think it's through this infield, though, David, that Montoya needs to have an opportunity. He needs David to maybe get some traffic in this hairpin right down that they're coming into now after this kink. If he got traffic here and Montoya was close enough, yeah, we see the bodywork there has dropped a little bit, that fence on the right side.
Looks like a small boy's trousers, doesn't it? So they're all coming down, you know.
So... And look at the prototype ahead of Donohue. It is not on the lead lap, of course. There are only 4 cars on the lead lap. It is the 02 of Scott Dixon a little further ahead. Will that come into play?
I bet, yes. You can just imagine the message going between Chip Ganassi now and the 01 car, can't you?
Dixon down in the 5th spot. He's 4 laps down on the leaders. Had that drama with the nose coming off, had to change the splitter under green flag conditions. Of course, the 01 changed the splitter, but under caution, that's really the difference in terms of the positioning of the 2 Ganassi cars right now.
Think about the last time we saw a finish like this in the 24-hour would be 69 at Le Mans, when Ickx and Herman battled it out for the last hour at the circuit there at Le Mans with the Porsche 908 and the GT40. But there weren't 4 cars involved like there have been here. And of course, these have been together like this ever since the drop of the flag. I mean, this has been like this basically since this time yesterday afternoon.
Well, any way you look at it, David, all the technical issues aside, there is going to be history no matter what. Having 4 cars running nose to tail on the lead lap to the very end of the race, yes, helped by a record number of caution flags, but you've got to be there in order to close up on the leader. Chip Ganassi Racing may get that Grand Slam of 4 in a row, and Scott Pruitt and Juan Pablo Montoya may get their 3rd straight. On the other hand, if the 58 comes through, it brings Brumos Porsche back from the wilderness of winless seasons to the top of the podium for the first time since the 70s. And of course, we know all about the family history for the Donohues here at Daytona. Any way this works out is going to be spectacular.
Of course, your heart says Donohue, doesn't it? I mean, you know, just the coincidence, getting the pole position the other day, the same as 40 years after his dad got the pole in that race and then won it, and here he is with a chance to win from the pole, would be just incredible. But of course, it would be history too if the Ganassi team was to win 4 in a row. That would be absolutely outstanding.
Chris Neville and Brian Tiller soaking up the atmosphere on pit road with these respective teams. Brian, take it away.
Well, guys, what I'm paying attention to down there, I'm watching the monitor. Oh, we got slower traffic in the chicane right now. But the car directly in front of David Donohue happens to be a red, white, and blue 02. And who does it belong to? You guessed it, Chip Ganassi. You talked about traffic, Calvin. Maybe that's the traffic that Juan Pablo Montoya is looking for.
Well, Scott Dixon is a pro, and certainly Chip Ganassi pays his salary, but I don't think he's going to make it too tough on David Donohue right now. This has just been a spectacular race here. Scott doesn't want to have an influence on the result for the wrong reason, so looks like he's giving him plenty of room there down into turn 1.
and does. There's more GT traffic coming into play, though, and this is a tricky section of the track. Donahue needs to clear this Farnbacher Lowe's Porsche, which he does. Now it's on Montoya's radar. He gets it off his radar nice and quick.
Scott Dixon allowed all three of the leaders through there very cleanly, but this is the sort of traffic scenario that Montoya needs. But David Donahue again gets the rhythm right. He gets through the traffic.
Meanwhile, Max Angelelli is dropping farther and farther behind this front-running trio. I don't think the SunTrust car is going to have anything to say about this finish, but I've been wrong before.
It all started from the final round of pit stops, where Antonio Garcia got out of the 58 and David Donahue climbed in. It was an electrifying stop, and there's contact there between the 85 Farnbacher Lowe's car and Max Angelelli. No damage done. It was a minor tap, and Angelelli's able to go on. And from the moment that Donahue climbed aboard the 58, his car, his regular car that he shares with Darren Law all year long in the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series, he was on fire, and he was on a mission to get Juan Pablo Montoya, get by him and clear out, and that's where he has been.
Here we go. Montoya's going to get a run on him. David has been balked. Montoya's going to be right with him now. Can he tuck it to the inside?
It's the same move that Donahue pulled on Montoya through the bus stop. Montoya balked by GT traffic. Is JPM close enough?
No GT traffic immediately in front of them. It shouldn't be a factor here towards the brake zone. Once again, Donahue stretches it out down this front straightaway here at Daytona.
Now there's quite a gaggle of GT cars in front of them, just going to turn one as they go into turn one. They're about to catch them with a bit of luck between 2 and 3, but more likely they'll catch them in 3, and worse still at the kink coming up.
Wow, this is a pressure cooker situation for David Donahue. Montoya has dealt with this scenario so well for about an hour and a half, and then eventually GT traffic played its part. But this is the type of scenario that Montoya has been looking for.
Last 18 minutes, no more than 10 laps.
This is the corner where he needs David to get balked, and then he'll be close enough to maybe make an inside move. Now Montoya's really close. Can he get the power down? Donahue will need to defend.
The PR1 Pontiac from the GT class is up ahead.
This is his corner. This is Montoya's corner. Right here is where he is dying very, very quick. But if he can't get it done by then, the Porsche gradually pulls away from that point. That one middle bit of that turn 6, the Lexus powered car and Montoya, the combination is awesome.
That was as close as we've seen Montoya to Donahue in some time. Yet still, the Brumos Porsche remains in front. 1 and 3. It's typically been a story of woe, of heartache for either the 58 or the 59 in this event since 2003, the beginning of the Daytona prototype era. This year, 2009, it has been a story of strength for the 58 and the famous 59.
Well, they have certainly been snake bit, this 58 car, over the last season or two. Is today their day in the biggest race of them all? Remember that Montreal race, running out of fuel with just literally 20 feet to go, dropping all the way to 3rd. They went on a tear in the middle of last season. 6 races in a row, 5 times they were on the podium.
Traffic in just the wrong place.
The 69 Speed Source Mazda of Matt Plum does the right thing and hangs wide, opens up the alley for the leading 3 cars.
How aggressive will Montoya be? Will he force the issue?
Boy, oh boy. Ask you Juan Pablo Montoya if he's going to force the issue. I'll say he will. And right now, all these windscreens on these cars have got well and truly sandblasted. They're covered in smeared rubber, and the sun's coming out, so it's shining in their eyes. They go down into that North Horseshoe, and of course, they go up onto the banking.
16 minutes, 10 seconds to go. The GT class leading car of Andy Lally is right there. The black and green machine for TRG. They're currently running 1-2. The 67 and 66. What a race meeting it's been for the California-based team.
You'd have to say at this point it's been an awfully tough and fraught battle, but so far it has been clean.
Very clean. I'm very impressed with all the driving. These guys just, well, look, you hate to say it, just haven't made a mistake in 24 hours.
We're going to take a break. We won't let you miss a thing, but if you have friends that may not be watching the Rolex 24, call them up. Tell them to switch on speed. The most important 15 minutes of the day are coming up. It's been 31 long years since the proud Brumos Racing Porsche team last won the Rolex 24 overall way back in 1978 when Peter Gregg, Rolf Stommelin, and Tony Hesmans took a Porsche 935 to the top step of the podium. It could happen again here today as David Donahue leads with 15 minutes to go. Once again, our aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you have got to get DirecTV. And if you call yourself a race fan, you have got to be watching the 47th Rolex 24 at Daytona right now. 3 cars, nose to tail for the win. Brian Till.
Michael Lucci telling David Donahue 10 laps to go as he flashed across the line. But, you know, we talked about mistakes. Remember, both the 58 and the 01 did have driving mistakes throughout this event, which makes it that much more spectacular that they are where they are. They spent time back in the garage repairing cars, and yet they're still battling for the lead after 23 hours and 45 minutes. It's coming down to this. It's pretty spectacular stuff, Chris.
Well, Brian, still very quiet between the teams and the drivers of those front 3 cars. However, back in 4th place, Max Angelelli falling further and further back from this front pack, and the team really just trying to will him on. Simon Hodgson all over the radio telling Max, you still have over 10 minutes to go. You can't give up. Do whatever you can. And Angelelli back over the radio just sounding beat like he has nothing left to go.
Well, we know that Max Angelelli is one of those drivers that definitely feels the heat, so to speak, in terms of the demands that these race cars put on the drivers. So when you're in the thick of the battle, it's one thing, but when you lose that little bit of adrenaline rush as you see the leaders stretching it out a bit, it certainly takes the wind out of your sails.
There's been a lot of historical statistics spoken about and historical marks. David Donahue has been waiting 6 years for victory. It was Mont Tremblant 2003, the last time Brumos won a Daytona prototype race in Grand Am. Will he be rewarded in less than 12 minutes time for his patience?
And I tell you what, and his skill. That first lap when he just took over the car on this last stint, I was wondering the wisdom of that. Garcia was on a roll, Juan Pablo Montoya was on a roll, and I tell you what, that opening lap, David Donahue was absolutely awesome. Fresh into the car, fresh tires, and he was just all over him like the old cheap suit.
But it was like Tom Christensen at Le Mans when he broke Jackie Ickx's record. He broke his own trend of not finishing the race. He finished the race to take the checkered flag and break Jackie's record. They couldn't deny David Donahue the chance to emulate his father and take the checkered flag and win the Rolex 24 at Daytona. He's still got 11 minutes of work to do, though. Let's not forget about that. And he's got Juan Pablo Montoya hunting, chasing him down.
Well, he's staying close enough, Lee, so that if he does encounter traffic, the leader, that is, Montoya, may be close enough to pounce. He has got the hammer down. Timmy Keene will just be hoping and praying that Montoya keeps the initiative here. He wants 3 in a row. Montoya right now is still unbeaten at Daytona, but he's got 10 minutes to find his way by David Donahue and keep that intact.
Traffic in the bus stop yet again. It's
traffic
the
in the bus stop, and there's traffic around the corner too, looming up as they're going to come down to turn 1. They're going to get mixed up in traffic again.
Saw the difference there between the run out of the chicane between Donahue and Montoya, but David has enough of a gap over Juan Pablo.
Guys, just listening to the scanners down here, Donahue now beginning to get frustrated with traffic going into the chicane that time. A couple of expletives said, I'm going to catch it again right at the wrong place. So he knows the clock is winding down, and he knows that JP is there.
Well, he's going to catch it big time in the infield now. There's a whole gaggle of slower cars in front, and it is frustrating. When you're first there, it's not always the best place to be because the guy behind you can just size everything up just that much better. He has a grand view of the whole thing.
Well, there's about 6 or 7 cars up ahead. Gets by the Bullet Racing 44 Porsche. That one is done. He may get lucky.
He may get lucky. They may just get to this lot as they get on the banking, which should make it easier.
Watch Montoya. This is where he's strong, though. The short shoot down to the left-hander before they come onto the banking.
You talk about luck. Traffic. I mean, if David Donahue had been 100 yards further down the road, he'd have been right in that mess. Right now, he's up on the banking. He'll take it high and try and scream around these GT traffic before he gets to the chicane.
He's going to get the majority of them before he gets to the bus stop. He's got to get by these next 3. There's a prototype at the head of the chain. He's got 2 GT cars to clear, which he should do on the rundown, and he does easily.
Wow.
And Montoya's caught him behind. Will he make the outside move? He does, just in time.
And the man who got hurt there was Barbosa, so both the leaders got an equal shot through traffic, but for David Donahue, that was a little bit of racing luck.
Well, you need some luck on these things.
But Montoya is close enough. If that happens again and he doesn't catch it with the same rhythm, Montoya could pounce. This thing is far from over.
8.5 minutes remaining. And look at Hurley Haywood, the legendary Hurley Haywood. 5 times a winner here. He's not quite biting his fingernails, but he can't move. He can't believe it. He just wants these next 8.25 minutes to evaporate.
This is one team who certainly doesn't count their chickens until it's over, because they've seen victory snatched away from them so many times over the last 2 years. And they realize that this is the heartbreak point of the race. To be so strong, to have the lead with under 8 minutes to go.
We know that Juan Pablo Montoya is one of the world's great drivers. You don't win 7 Grand Prix and stand on the podium 13 times without being somewhat special. And for David Donahue to be able to hold him off, boy oh boy, that is pretty outstanding.
Well, to win this race is special, David, but you're right. To look at the record book and see that name Montoya and add to that Pruitt and Rojas finishing runner-up, that would make it even more special, but he's got to get the job done yet.
It ain't over till it's over and all those other cliches.
There is Mike Colucci, the man who is synonymous with Brumos Racing, grew up with Bob Snodgrass. And we talk about family ties between David Donahue and his late father. Well, Mike Colucci is in the same boat because he lost his father this past off-season. This winter, his 91-year-old father passed away, and he said, I was real proud of my dad. He said he fathered 10 kids, and I'm the youngest. And he said, I'd like to win this one for my dad.
Well, that would certainly be special, and of course it'd be so special. Bob Snodgrass passed away a couple of years ago. His legendary dealership just up the road in Jacksonville. How special would it be for the name of Donahue and Brumos to be back in victory circle here at Daytona?
David Donahue continuing to dig, and we all know that race car drivers do good things for good luck and carry good luck charms. Hurley Haywood carrying with him right now a toy snake that Bob Carlson's wife gave him. Bob Carlson had a thing with snakes. She gave it to Hurley and said, carry this for Bob and for good luck, and if you win, take it to victory circle. We talked about the passing of Bob Carlson. Well, he's still here.
That's right, and his wife Debbie, I know, is looking in from her home in the Atlanta, Georgia area. We're thinking about you too, Debbie.
6 minutes to go. That's it. Simple as that. Here comes Montoya now on Donahue with traffic up ahead. The Brumos pilot gets a clear run through. Now Montoya needs the same.
Intense stuff, but David is definitely catching a little bit of a break here in traffic. They're seeing him. These slower GT cars are now sensing the rhythm of the race. They know who to look out for. These cars have been tied together, so they know if they see one of the leaders, there's more coming.
It's like Groundhog Day. The amount of times they've caught that blue PR1 Pontiac at that section of the track. It's happened time and time again. But fortunately, Donahue, Montoya get a clear run through.
Oh, traffic as they go into the bus stop. This is where he does not want to get held up, because coming out of here, Montoya is very, very quick.
More from Brumos. Brian, take it away.
Mike Colucci on the radio saying, David, don't worry about the alarms. Don't worry about the alarms. A little more than 5 minutes. I don't know it's temperature or oil, but guess what, guys? At this point in the race, it doesn't matter. Shut them off. Don't look at them. Drive.
Drive it into the ground. Absolutely.
They don't have a lot of fuel on board either.
Boy, they don't. I mean, these guys must be thinking of that race at Montreal, I would think. I mean, this is going to be right down to the last drop of gas.
David, let's not think about that race at Montreal.
But isn't that the way you want it to turn out, with the best guys out there, tires worn, low on fuel, nobody lifting? And David, looking at Juan Pablo Montoya, you and I have seen him so many times in Formula One cars locking wheels with the likes of Michael Schumacher in Brazil and Belgium and places like that. He will not hesitate to stick his nose in there.
Well, when you think of the way he overtook Michael Schumacher in the Brazilian Grand Prix in his very first season, I mean, it made your hair stand on end. So if he can do that to Michael Schumacher, David Donahue now under real pressure. This is where this car, the Lexus powered car, is so quick off these corners.
But this is also one of the great things, boys, about the Rolex 24, and we touched on it before with Kyle Petty. When Juan Pablo Montoya was deep into his IndyCar and Formula One days, he would have known who Darren Law and David Donahue were. He comes to the Rolex 24 and he says, boy, I don't even know who these guys are, but look at how they can drive. And I'm going to fight with them for the win for the Rolex 24. Less than 4 minutes to go, 3 3/4 minutes.
Montoya has just done a sensational job in holding on to that lead for so long and still keeping the pressure on David. And you have to think, when you haven't been in winner's circle for so long, the pressure really has to be mounting on David Donahue's shoulders right now.
They've dropped Joao Barbosa. This is down to a 2-car, 2-driver fight. It's Donahue v. Montoya. Barbosa and Angelelli are out of it.
With just over 3 minutes to go, if Donahue's got a problem with his vehicle, if there's a mechanical problem, he'd just so dearly love to be able to lift off at this moment and just cut this down to 1 lap to go, but he's not going to be able to do that.
Oh, they're going to come by the stripe one more time and see that white flag, I believe. So just under 2 laps to go for David Donahue to hang on to this lead and get that first 24-hour win. He can't afford one mistake. He gets a little bit wide there of apex. Not enough for Montoya to take advantage.
Remember what's on the line for Ganassi. I know for all of you who have been with us for the whole ride, you know the statistic, the detail. It's 4 consecutive victories on the line for Chip Ganassi Racing. 3 consecutive victories for one Pablo Montoya from just 3 starts. He has the perfect record at the Rolex 24. David Donahue and Brumos are standing in his way.
Montoya close. You have to think, if there's any traffic that can play a factor through that infield on the last lap, you know that Montoya's going to dive it in there on the brakes.
Oh boy, you only ever. They've got traffic coming up now. That I think the traffic's going to clear the bus stop chicane before they get there, but it's going to be close.
The white flag is in readiness, whether it will come out this time or next. We are standing above the flag stand, high above the grandstand here at Daytona International Speedway. Will it fly this time or the next?
For Donahue, he hopes he sees the white flag. For Montoya, he hopes he doesn't. He needs another bite on this one.
Colucci, the pressure is on. The entire Brumos gang. I think the white's going to fly this time. 1 more lap to go for David Donahue. 3.5 miles between he and his biggest victory in his racing career, and to bring Brumos back into the winner's circle. For Buddy Rice, he's an Indy 500 champion. Can he be a Rolex 24 at Daytona champion? Brian.
Colucci on the radio saying, go to reserve, David, go to reserve.
Oh, no. Not again. This cannot be Montreal all over again.
Well, the one thing they don't want it to do is to cough. Remember this, they may be switching over early. If they have to switch when he runs out, that may be enough for Montoya to pounce. Maybe they're going to the reserve early so he doesn't have to go through that.
He's going to get traffic down at turn 6. David Donahue's going to get traffic at his worst position as he goes through turn 6.
Mike Colucci saying, come on, just talking quietly to himself. This is too much pressure to bear. The final lap of the Rolex 24.
Maybe, finally, everyone's looking down on this Brumos machine and giving David Donahue the brakes. He seems to have got the brakes in traffic. Can he get the rhythm one final time through this bus stop chicane?
He'll clear this GT car to the bus stop on the very last lap of the 47th running of the Rolex 24. There's another GT car in the way. Will he give him room? He does. Clears space. Montoya will have to tackle that GT car. And Donahue exits the bus stop for the final time. There is so much emotion. There is so much history, not only for the Donahue family name, for the Brumos camp. He went from pole and he is on his way to victory circle, to victory lane. Has David Donahue got this one in the bag? It's the final stretch to the tri-oval. Yes, he will emulate his father. 40 years, the anniversary, and the Donahue family name is back in victory lane. And so too is Brumos. That is an outstanding victory, and one that will be celebrated for many years to come.
What a race.
Boy, if you believe in ghosts, you know Daytona International Speedway is absolutely haunted right now by all of the great driving legends and so many electrifying moments here at Daytona. Let's go to Chris Neville.
Well, he may not have been driving the car, but Hurley, you have a management position with this team right now. The last Brumos win was 1978. What a great feeling for you guys.
Actually, it was 91 with Yost. We were a sponsor on that car, but it's great. This is a team with 2 cars, and we are just thrilled. I mean, the 58 car, David did a fantastic job. The 58 car, or 59 car did a great job. We were third, so we're very happy.
It was a lot of work. It was almost 2 years ago that we lost Bob Snodgrass. What's going through your mind right now?
Well, I'm sure that he is smiling upstairs. He worked for this. This was his love. He put this team together, and he would have just been thrilled. And also our other good friend, Bob Carlson. I got his snake on board right here, so I'm taking that to victory lane.
Early, congratulations. Great to see you guys back in victory lane.
Unbelievable. 735 laps completed. That is yet another record for David Donahue. He set the pole record several days ago. He has won from pole and completed the most laps in the Daytona prototype era. Brumos in victory lane with Darren Law, Antonio Garcia, and Buddy Rice. And we congratulate TRG, Kevin Buckler and his drivers, RJ Valentine, Andy Lally, Jörg Bergmeister and Patrick Long. Porsche on top. It's a Porsche doubleheader in Daytona prototype and in GT. We'll hear from all of our respective winners when we come back. What a race, what a day.
Welcome back live to the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway, where another electrifying page has been added to the long annals here at Daytona. Let's get down to victory lane and Brian Till.
David Donahue, come on out, man. The guys have been talking. I mean, what a race, what a race. The crowd cheers. Celebration going on with the crew, and why shouldn't there be? It's been since 2003 since Brumos has experienced a victory in Daytona prototypes. It's been 40 years since the name Donahue has graced the name or the victory circle here at Daytona International Speedway. For you, you're a soft-spoken guy, but I got to believe that the emotion there inside right now is just bubbling up.
Yeah, I don't know what to say, you know. It's nice it's 40 years of my dad, but the heck with that, man. These guys, they put such an incredible effort into this, and you know, I know Bob Snodgrass is smiling, looking down at us, and we didn't get a chance to shave his head, and Bob Carlson, a dear friend of ours.
You are the man. You are the man. Great job, buddy. Great job.
And for you, David, I mean, that last lap, I heard Mike Colucci on the radio say, go to reserve. Was it in dire straits? Were we thinking about Montreal again? Darren experienced that.
I have no idea. I know, because, no, I wasn't worried about that so much. I think it was just a precaution. But holy cow, you know, and a special hey and congratulations to Pastor John Suloff. Our pastor had a baby this morning. But this is, these guys, you know, they've been working so hard for so long. We're just such a small part of what we do. I'm glad I can carry the flag.
Great job. Humble, but an awesome job. And Darren, for you, I mean, the drive I was talking about going to fuel reserve. You know, you experienced that at Montreal. Were you hearing it?
I was thinking Montreal the whole time. Please don't run out, but I don't even know what to say. I'm so excited, man.
And this team worked so hard, Buddy Rice. Great laps in the middle of the nighttime. I know you guys got down a little bit. In the world in which you come from, IndyCar racing, so difficult to get down a lap or two and get it back. But in a 24-hour race, how'd you guys stay calm throughout the night?
You know, we had a really good car. I mean, Darren and David did a lot of testing throughout the winter. This has been a great experience, and it's just great to be part of Brumos. And to see the Porsche do what it did today and have the power and everything that we did, and this reliability was there, this is just great for everybody here and how hard they worked all last year and to get everybody this win.
And Antonio Garcia definitely a part of that win as well. I know last night about 11:30 you weren't feeling too good, but when you got back in the car late in the going today, you did what you needed to do. You held on. You handed over a good car to David Donahue.
Well, it's awesome. Awesome racing, especially the last hour I've done with Montoya and all the guys. I mean, it was perfect. I really learned how to do the ovals today.
It was a spectacular battle, and it took more than just one car to do it. Justin is standing by.
Juan Pablo, extraordinary. I mean, I think you proved to everyone today quite why you're such a champion. That was not an easy second place for you, was it?
No, it wasn't. You know, being realistic, we shouldn't even been in second place. I think everybody, Chip Ganassi did an amazing job. You know, Telmex, Stargate, everybody involved in this, it's incredible. The boys.
You know, I mean, tell me, when you were in that position, you had the best handling, slower car. Great on the infield, but just not the horses on the banking.
Yeah, but the annoying thing is we probably carried less wing than they did. You know, we had less wing. You know, we had such a good handling car. But every time, you know,
you get traffic and they just blow by you, and they get traffic and you can't even keep up with them. So it's a little unfair, but it's what it is. I think it's a second place for the team is a great thing still, and I just want to thank everybody.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Rojas, Memo, I'd love to say something. Memo, obviously sitting there in the pits, nothing you can do about it. Obviously the car was in great hands, but I mean, you put in a lot of work throughout the whole race. Satisfied?
I'm really happy for the work that Telmex Chip Ganassi Racing did all weekend. We had a great car. Obviously, the difference in power that the Porsches had was something I think needs to be addressed. I think that's what kept us from winning this race, because we were much quicker than them in the infield. Anyways, I'm really happy for them. Brumos Porsche Racing deserved this win, and historically, I think it means a lot to them. Congratulations to them, to Hurley Haywood and all their team. It's really cool for them to win this.
Very gracious of you, and of course, standing here, Scott Pruitt, you are a beacon for all of us who are going past 40 now. I mean, you must be really happy inside to see these top world-class Formula One drivers mixing it up with our sports car types. I mean, it must feel good.
Well, everything feels good across the board. I mean, when you come to the 24 and you have all the competition of all the different drivers, I mean, whether it's NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, whatever the case might be, I just can't be prouder of the whole Ganassi operation, Lexus, Telmex, the whole thing. It's just been, I mean, for 24 hours, all that excitement come down to that close. I just couldn't be prouder of our team.
It's a very happy Ganassi team here. Guys?
All right, thanks very much. What a moment for Brumos Porsche. Confetti cannons go off, and perhaps most importantly, in a moment, the drivers will receive their Rolex watches. But what a moment for David Donahue. Your thoughts just keep coming back to him because of that long family history here. And as you said earlier, Lee, I think by far the biggest race victory of David's own long racing career.
And let's not forget about the exclusive club that Buddy Rice has joined, winning the Indy 500 and Rolex 24. Names like AJ Foyt, Al Unser Jr., Mark Donahue, Al Unser, Bobby Rahal, and then more in the modern era, Montoya, Frank Kitty, Dixon, and Weldon. Pretty exclusive club.
No question about it. 735 laps complete by one makes it the greatest distance covered during the Daytona prototype era here at the Rolex 24. Let's go to Chris Neville with our GT winners.
Well, all eyes may have been on that Daytona prototype battle. Don't think the battle in GT was any easier. And RJ Valentine, Jörg Bergmeister, Andy Lally, Justin Marks, and Pat Long come away with the victory. RJ, you've been at this a long time. You assembled a great group of drivers, and you get your first Rolex.
You got to give it credit to Kevin. He's the guy that put us all together, and he gave me a stellar lineup of people. These guys are just the best road racers in the world. Let me tell you, TRG, Deborah Buckler, and the whole group there are unbelievable. I got to tell you, Porsche Motorsport, they never give up. I've been doing this for 30 years. This is my 23rd Daytona 500, and I won the thing with these guys.
Jörg, you won this race back in 2003, so your second win. Any easier this time?
No, third win. 2002, 2003. It has been a while though, so it's good being back. Excited being back with Kevin and TRG and winning again. It's just awesome.
All right, Andy, I'll keep my mouth shut on this one. You've won it before. Congratulations on another.
Yeah, this is amazing. No, I got to win it back with Mikey and Archangel back in '01, but to do it here with Kevin, we've won team championships, driver championships, and but now we get the Rolex together, and that's just an honor. And start the season off with Justin and Constructor to try and make a run at the '09 championship. It's what better way to start?
Yeah, what a great way to start the season. You're going to be paired up with Andy Lally running for this championship, and you get your first win, Justin.
Yeah, it's been 2 years since I've road raced, and to come back my first race and win it here in the 24 is pretty awesome. But just got to thank everybody at TRG, got to thank Kevin and everybody for giving me such an awesome opportunity. Constructor, No Fear Energy, CRG, K1 Speed, everybody that's a part of this, thanks to them, thanks for the opportunity. Awesome way to get back road racing.
And Patrick, I know with all your wins, this is the one that has eluded you, so you've got to be pretty proud that you finally knocked down the door.
This is special. I was just telling Kevin, I thought this was such a special victory, I might not ever get it. So to get it this early on, I can't say enough about Porsche. This is all about endurance, and that's what they put out. So special thanks to those guys, and let's go do some more.
Kevin, you can barely count the wins that you've had here and the amount of podiums that your team has had. So one more, you just got to keep adding them up.
Yeah, this is really special. I got some of my best friends in this car that have been by my side forever, and being able to deliver on all the promises of coming down here and put this win and a watch on their wrist is really, really special to me. This team's awesome. We got great chemistry. Hey, guys, move aside. Show them our lucky charms on the roof right here. We got all the guys. We had some stickers made up special for all the boys. We got Patrick. We got Jorg. We got Andy. We got Justin. And we got RJ. And that's about our team right there, man.
Congratulations, guys.
It's a tight-knit family bunch, and we're pretty good friends with RJ Valentine, so we'll bust his chops a little later and remind him that he said that he won the Daytona 500 as opposed to the Rolex 24 GT class. But it's all right, there's plenty of fatigue, and there'll be fatigue tomorrow morning after the Brumos party that will be enormous tonight. The Florida team is victorious in the big one in Florida. Rolex 24 Daytona champions, finally, after a 30-plus year break.
Welcome back live to Daytona, where Grand Marshal Brian Redman, himself a 3-time overall winner at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, shares another special moment at the Speedway. And the trophies are awarded after an absolutely amazing race over the last 24 hours. Let's meet our runner-up team in GT with Kelly Stavast.
And it was the 66 from TRG. We've got the whole lineup here. And we'll start with Spencer Pompelli, who brought it home here. Here he is. Spencer, you won the GT class here in 06. You kind of knew for a while that you guys were going to come home in second. That was kind of planned out behind the 67. What was that last stint like?
That last stint was it was tough. I heard a noise at the end, about 10 laps to go. I have no idea what it was. Car started shaking, shook the whole time. And it wasn't until RJ and I came by the start-finish, I actually let the thing open up and held together. So still in one piece. These TRG guys do such a good job. The effort that they put into this is amazing, and it really paid off today. And also big thanks to AXA, who was here with us all weekend and really made this possible.
And Tim George Jr., the Rolex Rookie of the Year last year, getting his best finish here at the Rolex 24. One more spot I'm sure you've got your eyes on.
For sure. We're looking forward to coming back next year with TRG. And, thanks really goes to these guys to put the car, the long hours in the shop. And really appreciate racing with Spence again, buddy from last year, and Ted and everyone from Porsche Factory as well.
Ted Ballou finishes second again. That's where you were last year. Again, looking for that top spot. But what's it like after 24 hours to be here nose to tail with the leader?
Oh, it's just awesome to be competing with your teammates like that is really exciting. It was great to be out here again. Second isn't first, but we're real happy, and Spencer and I are together for the season, so we're looking forward to a great season.
Emmanuel Collard getting back into a GT, what was that like?
Yeah, it's quite difficult for the traffic, but I like it very much because when the car is very competitive, like what we had this weekend, it's always exciting to do racing, even with GT car.
And Richard Lees, of course, had a big part. He was battling out there with the Farnbrockers, but we've got to get it over to Chris Neville now.
Well, the 59 boys are in victory lane celebrating with their teammates down here. JC, what a great race last year. 5 fourth-place finishes. You start this year off with a podium.
Yeah, it's incredible. The team really kept the momentum going from the finish of last season. Both teams, man, it's so great to see David win this thing 40 years after his dad did it. And we're off to a great start points-wise. I couldn't be happier, and this is just really awesome.
Terry, what a great deal for you, because I think we've all been kind of waiting for Terry Borchler to kind of get back into the limelight after a couple years. You are now.
It was a great opportunity for me and just a great team. Real happy for the 58 car. They did such a good job, and like JC said, just classic. And the Brumos organization is just fantastic to work with, and I am glad to be in a good ride. It's satisfying.
And Joao, tell us about that last hour. You could really throw a blanket over the 58, the 59, and the 01.
Yeah, the last hour was really competitive. Unfortunately, I got held on traffic on the bus stop. But, I'm really happy for the whole team. First place and a third place couldn't be better. But I'm just really happy with the opportunity to drive with all these guys. They did a great job, and let's keep the momentum for the championship.
Hey, what a way to start off the season for Brumos.
That's the way to think about it. An amazing 24 hours of racing, but it's only the beginning of a championship, and you will see it all this year here on Speed. Time to start wrapping things up after 24 hours of racing at Daytona International Speedway. An amazing day, amazing memories. We'll be back to start summing things up in just a moment. The Rolex 24 at Daytona is presented on speed by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. And brought to you in part by Pirelli. Power is nothing without control. There's another beautiful view at Daytona International Speedway. Speed Weeks 2009 now officially underway. The next race on the Rolex Grand Am Championship, the Bosch Engineering 250 at Virginia International Raceway, Sunday, April 26th. Time for final thoughts, gentlemen. Lee Diffie and Calvin Fish will be calling the entire season. Let's start with you, Lee.
Bob, I've had the pleasure to call the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series since the inception of Daytona prototypes. Never seen a race, let alone a 24-hour like it.
And when you think of the intensity over the whole day, David, and particularly those last couple of hours, I mean, for Montoya, he's finally got beaten here at Daytona, but boy, he didn't take it easy, and that was just sensational when he had the lead, the positioning of the race car, the intensity of that battle, and David taking the lead, he held on to it, and I thought right up to the last couple of corners, Montoya could still sneak it back.
I thought David drove absolutely brilliantly. I thought Juan Pablo Montoya took the defeat rather badly myself, but whatever it is that Scott Pruitt's taking, I need some of that. He is absolutely awesome, isn't he? He just is absolutely up all the time. But what an incredible 24-hour race. You just haven't seen a race like that where the top four cars are within seconds of each other at the end of 24 hours.
I must say, this is going to be a hard act to follow at VIR. They're going to need every minute of that break until late April to get things organized again. David, you have driven in and been a part of television coverage for so many of these endurance classics over the years. Where would you rate this one?
Well, it's got to be right near the top, Bob, if not the top. As I say, the last time we've seen it close as finish as this in the 24 hours, Jackie Ickx at Le Mans. That was back in 1969 with just him and Hans Hermann for the last hour. These guys were at it hammer and tongs right from the drop of the flag yesterday afternoon, every single inch of the way. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, we have an awful lot of people to thank, as you might imagine, with a 24-hour race. We want to thank Daytona International Speedway President Robin Bragg and his team for their hospitality, and also a big thanks to our hard-working crew as we brought you 16 hours of live coverage on Fox and, of course, here on Speed. The season is now officially underway. We'll have much of it for you here on Speed, and we look forward to sharing every minute of it with you. For Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, David Hobbs, Justin Bell, Kelly Stavist, Brian Till, and Chris Neville, I'm Bob Varsho. We'll leave you with some of the sights and sounds of one of the most memorable runnings of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, the 47th. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you again soon. For now, so long from Daytona International Speedway in Florida.